Chapter 1628, My assistant Mu Qinying's face turned pale. She tried resisting, but Mu Xiao forced her into his arms. What should I do? Mu Qinying was confused. At that moment, she really didn't know what to think. She didn't have feelings for Mu Xiao, and she only considered him an assistant. But without Mu Xiao, she wouldn't be able to make imperial weapons and she'd lose face at the competition. How shameless, someone shouted at that moment. Mu Xiao suddenly flung himself away from Mu Qinying. Mu Qinying was also startled, so she started running away. She looked around, but she didn't know who was talking. Qinying, who's that? Asked Mu Xiao, following her. I don't know, said Mu Qinying, shaking her head. The wind suddenly felt cold now. She looked at Mu Xiao and said, Mu Xiao, I'll forget everything that happened tonight, and you can continue being my assistant. However, if you try to touch me again, I'll get angry and I'll drop out of the tournament after letting you go. Mu Qinying wasn't stupid. She understood why Mu Xiao was acting that way. Someone had shouted, and it was her wake-up call. She knew that she couldn't sell her body to participate in the competition. She was more willing to give up if things were put that way. Mu Xiao remained silent and lowered his head, but secretly he was furious. Who was ruining his plan this time? Lin Feng, it must have been Lin Feng, thought Mu Xiao. After thinking about it, he raised his head and said, Miss Qinying, I understand, from now on I'll make sure such things won't happen again. I'll just stay with you and protect you. Mu Xiao was now pretending to be a protector. He knew that no matter what he'd say, nothing would work, so a protector was still a better status than a guard. Go and have a rest. In the future, you can't come into my room without my permission, said Mu Qinying in a cold way. Roger, Mississippi, said Mu Xiao bowing. Then he went back to his room and closed the door. He felt like crying, but he was so angry that he couldn't do it. Lin Feng had ruined his dream of making his dream girl fall in love with him. It was either Lin Feng or Mu Lin Shui, however, the voice they had heard was a woman's voice. Just like Mu Xiao had guessed, the voice he had heard was Lin Feng's. They hadn't gone too far, so Lin Feng and Lin Shui had heard them after they left. Mu Qinying glanced around and then went back to her room. She didn't know who had shouted, but she also thought that it might have been Lin Feng. She didn't understand why he was helping her though. Qinying is too naive and sensitive, whispered Mu Lin Shui, you guessed right, Mu Xiao really is evil. Lin Feng smiled but said nothing. He had gone through a lot in his life, so he understood people. You've probably done such things in the past too, said Mu Lin Shui, laughing. Lin Feng rolled his eyes and then smiled at her. If you think so, I can do it to you too. Mu Lin Shui smiled teasingly and said, if you do that to me, I won't reject you like Qinying rejected Mu Xiao though. Lin Feng smiled wryly. She was somewhat cold to other people, but she was kind and gentle to him, she even joked with him. But thank you. Mu Lin Shui said after she saw Lin Feng looking embarrassed. Lin Feng shrugged, he didn't mind. He didn't like Mu Qinying, but they weren't enemies either. If Mu Lin Shui hadn't cared about Mu Qinying, Lin Feng wouldn't have done anything for her. She was old enough to make her own decisions after all. Good thing she came back to her senses in the end, otherwise, nobody would have been able to help her, said Mu Lin Shui. In the following days, Mu Xiao did his best to help Mu Qinying. They focused, and with more sweat, they made another imperial weapon. On the other hand, Lin Feng and Mu Lin Shui didn't make any weapons, they just chatted, laughed, sunbathed, and slept. Finally, it was the day of the tournament. Mu Lin Shui came out of her room, looking at Lin Feng who was lying down in the grass with his eyes closed. She smiled and said, Lin Feng, the clan called everyone, so we have to go. I'm coming too, asked Lin Feng. Even though he had spent a lot of time there, he had only stayed with Mu Qinying or Mu Lin Shui. He felt like a stranger in the Mu clan. Of course, they're going to choose the people who will participate in the tournament. We're a team, so we have to go, said Mu Lin Shui smiling. Lin Feng smiled wryly and stood up. Once again, many people were going to pay attention to him. Mu Lin Shui had a higher status in the clan, so him appearing with her might cause some issues. I have no choice then, said Lin Feng indifferently. You almost never go out, instead you work so hard to help me, said Mu Lin Shui in a gentle way. Lin Feng's deployment spells were incredibly powerful, and he kept helping her without anyone else knowing. She almost felt guilty. She knew that if she raised these concerns he'd just say, I don't mind being discreet. So, she didn't say anything more, instead the two of them walked away with Mu Qinying and Mu Xiao behind them. Miss Lin Shui, said Mu Qinying. Mu Lin Shui turned around and smiled at Mu Qinying. Qinying, you should come with us. All right. Mu Qinying felt guilty because of what happened the other night. Even after that, Mu Lin Shui was still so nice to her. Miss Lin Shui, why is he? Asked Mu Qinying, glancing at Lin Feng. Why was he coming with her? He's my assistant, of course he's coming with me, said Mu Lin Shui smiling. The tournament was going to start soon, so she no longer needed to keep it a secret. Before, she used to hide that fact because she feared someone from the clan would try to harm him. Though, if she had known how strong Lin Feng was from the beginning, she might have done everything differently. Your assistant? Mu Qinying looked dumbstruck. Lin Feng was her assistant. Indeed, said Mu Lin Shui nodding. Mu Lin Shui was a genius in the clan, her fire, her deployment spells, her weapons, everything about her was incredible. Of course, nobody thought she was stupid, so her choosing Lin Feng must have meant that. It meant that Mu Lin Shui was stronger with Lin Feng than by herself. How, thought Mu Qinying. She was still under the impression that Lin Feng's deployment spells were very weak. Mu Qinying glanced at Mu Xiao, but Mu Xiao avoided her gaze. He looked like a child who knew he'd done something wrong but didn't want to admit it. She had the feeling that if she asked about it, it would affect their cooperation, and he couldn't do that to Mu Qinying before the tournament. How? Could Lin Feng's deployment spells be more powerful than Mu Xiao's? Then, Mu Qinying's thoughts were chaotic. She felt like she had been fooled. On that day, Qinying had been pleasantly surprised by Mu Xiao, but maybe he had actually taken credit for Lin Feng's talisman. Chapter 1629, Goldfire Tower elders and many other people were crowded on the main square of the Mu clan. Mu Lin Shui and 3 others had arrived. Many people were looking at them, which wasn't a surprise because Mu Lin Shui was the most beautiful woman of the clan. Each time she showed up, everybody couldn't help but look at her. Of course, some people were noticing Lin Feng standing next to her. Those who did frowned. They had never seen him before, so what was he doing with Mu Lin Shui? Did it mean anything? Mu Lin Shui's uncle had seen Lin Feng, but he just thought that he was a servant. But now, when he saw Lin Feng, he suddenly stood up. He walked to the edge of the battle stage and looked at them. Lin Shui, who's that person? What is he doing here? His name is Lin Feng and he's my assistant, said Mu Lin Shui. Her uncle frowned and looked at Lin Feng. He had seen him a few months before when Mu Lin Shui made the level 2 imperial weapon. He had thought that Mu Lin Shui was working alone but had that person helped Mu Lin Shui. No wonder she wasn't looking for anyone to help her, she had already found someone suitable for her, thought her uncle angrily. You're not from the Mu clan. I joined the Mu clan by becoming Lin Shui's guard, replied Lin Feng smiling. The tournament is something extremely important for us. Do you have powerful deployment spells to show us? Asked Mu Lin Shui's uncle. He wanted to check how strong Lin Feng was and if he could really help Mu Lin Shui. Uncle, you're asking too much. Lin Feng is my assistant and that's all. I hope you can respect my decisions, said Mu Lin Shui. She knew what her uncle was thinking, he was wanting to see if she had a chance at defeating Yen Feng. You're going to participate in the tournament, but you're not the only one involved, and your participation will have an impact on our whole clan, said Mu Lin Xue's uncle in a cold way. Mind your own business. Go find your daughter if you want hand-out advice, snapped Mu Lin Xue. That's enough, shouted Mu Lin Xue's grandpa furiously. Her uncle turned around and walked to the other old men, then he said, Lin Xue is going to participate in the tournament, which is a very serious matter. With this consideration, I believe that her assistant must be experienced. First, we need to select the participants, said the main old man. His eyes were closed, and he sounded indifferent. With that, Mu Lin Xue's uncle shut his mouth. Everybody was looking at Lin Feng angrily though. Of course, Lin Feng knew that was going to happen. Now he understood why she hadn't talked about him earlier. All the members from the Mu clan finished gathering there before one of the old men stood up and nodded at the crowd. This afternoon, the tournament will be held in Goldfire City. The Mu clan is going to select 5 teams, so all those who can make imperial weapons need to step forwards now. Having the ability to make imperial weapons was a decisive factor, eliminating most of the candidates. A few people jumped onto the stage. Mu Lin Xue tapped Lin Feng's arm and grabbed his hand, but she noticed that his eyes were closed. Let's go, said Mu Lin Xue to Lin Feng. Then he opened his eyes and followed. The crowd was wide-eyed. The most beautiful girl from their clan was holding hands with a young man. What was going on? Had she fallen in love with him because she had spent some time with him? Everybody knew that after the tournament, Mu Lin Xue would probably marry Yan Feng. Even though she could make level 2 imperial weapons, she still couldn't beat Yan Feng. But surprisingly, now, she was holding hands with another young man. Mu Qinying and Mu Xiao were behind them, also dumbstruck. Were Lin Feng and Mu Lin Xue that close? 16 people, 8 teams, 30 years old and under, all able to make imperial weapons. Of course, they weren't the only ones, but they had the highest potential with those requirements. Master, how can we be sure we chose the right people? Asked someone to the old man who had his eyes closed. Only 5 teams could join in the tournament, so 3 teams had to be eliminated. The old man opened his eyes and looked at the teams. Tap, tap, 2 people, from different teams, took a step backwards. The old man looked at them and said, if you can't stand the pressure, you can't become weapon manufacturing masters. Those 2 teams must leave. Master, it's not my fault, said a young man. His assistant was one of the 2 who had stepped away. Since you chose your assistant, you must bear responsibility for what he does, said the old man strictly. Now, 6 teams were left, so only 1 more had to be eliminated. Show us the best imperial weapons you've made, said the old man to the teams. Then, they took out imperial weapons and gave them to the old man. Only 2 weapons were level 2 imperial weapons, while the rest were all level 1 imperial weapons. One of them belonged to Lin Feng and Mu Lin Xue, while the other one belonged to another team, a young man and a young girl who were Mu Lin Xue's uncle's children. The old man looked at the imperial weapons and gave them back to the potential participants. He looked at 2 of them and said, your imperial weapon was the weakest. Leave. They said nothing, bowed, and then left. Many people were going to participate in the tournament and millions of people would probably watch. Therefore, failing before the tournament was a type of relief. Phew, Mu Qinying took a deep breath. She had passed the first test, so now she could participate in the tournament. Alright, get ready to leave, said the old man, looking at the participants in a calm and serene way. They had to hurry over to Goldfire Tower. Mu Lin Xue's uncle frowned. He initially wanted to cause trouble, but now he had no choice. The leader of the clan had made the decision, so who was he to argue? In any case, he was convinced that Mu Lin Xue and Lin Feng would fail, so he gave up worrying over it. Even Mu Lai and Mu Yu can defeat you, thought the uncle. Mu Lai and Mu Yu were his children, so of course he gave them high praise. Everyone should go and watch the tournament, it will be beneficial for you, said the leader of the clan. Then, he rose up in the air. "Come," said the leader to Mu Lin Xue and the others. Mu Lin Xue and the others rose up in the air and everyone followed them. At that moment, in Goldfire Tower, there were millions, if not billions of people. They were all incredible weapons craftspeople with extraordinary statuses in Goldfire City. Who would want to miss this? Everybody was excited, even people from other cities and regions came to watch. For example, there were some people from Sword Mountain there. Chapter 1630, Challenge. There were many people from the powerful sects and clans of Goldfire Tower greeting the members of the Goldfire Tower in front of the main stage. They all wore special robes with different colors: red, orange, yellow, green, cyan, blue, purple, golden red, golden purple. 9 different colors which each represented different social statuses. Those who were wearing red were level 1 professors, those in orange were level 2 professors, those in golden red were level 8 professors, those in golden purple were level 9 weapon manufacturing masters. There was only one person wearing a golden purple robe. At that moment, the old man in the purple robe was chatting with some people happily. That weapon manufacturing master looked at a young man in a gentle way and smiled. "Yan Feng, you already received the teaching from Goldfire Tower. You're a level 2 professor already, and someday, I'll be your teacher. I'm sure that within 3 years you'll be a level 5 weapon manufacturing master." Yan Feng wore a Goldfire Tower robe, and it was orange. That was an honor to him, he felt proud to wear that robe. Soon, he'd become wearing a yellow robe. "Master, you're flattering me. I will do my best to make you proud," said Yan Feng politely. He was happy that a level 7 professor was flattering him, but who wouldn't? "Huh, little boy, I'm sure you won't let me down," said the old man smiling. "I've heard that you have an agreement with the Mu clan, is that true?" "Indeed. Mu Lin Xue is the most beautiful girl of the Mu clan, and she's a very talented weapon craftswoman. If I win, we'll get married," said Yan Feng. "You're a good boy. Heroes love beautiful women, so this is only normal. I've heard of her, and I think you two would be a good match. I support you in this," said the old man smiling. "Thank you, master," said Yan Feng. "Yan Feng, how come you're saying, master?" asked an elder. Yan Feng bowed before the old man and said, "I'm not a powerful weapon craftsman yet, so I must be polite. I wouldn't dare tarnish elders' reputation. When I become strong enough, things will change." "Huh, I like you more and more, little boy," said the old man in the purple robe. It was as if Yan Feng had already become a protagonist of Goldfire Tower. "Master, I need to get ready for the tournament," said Yan Feng politely. The old man in purple clothes nodded. "Go, don't disappoint us." "I won't," said Yan Feng, walking away and smiling. "The Mu clan is here," said a member of the Yan clan who was gazing into the distance. "Let's go and greet them," said an old man from the Yan clan smiling. Just after he said that, the Mu clan landed. "Brother Mu, I trust you have been doing well since we last met," said the leader of the Yan clan smiling. "You're early," said the leader of the Mu clan smiling. Even though he was smiling, it was difficult to see what he was really thinking. "Let's go and have a chat. Yan Feng and Lin Xue haven't seen each other for a while, so let's leave the young people alone," said the leader of the Yan clan. It sounded like he was forcing them, leaving the leader of the Mu clan in a position where he couldn't refuse. Yan Feng went to Mu Lin Xue. "Lin Xue, it won't be long before you become my wife," said Yan Feng. He had been waiting for this day for a long time now. "You're ridiculous," said Mu Lin Xue in a cold way. "You have no choice because you're absolutely going to lose. And after that, you'll become my wife and we will live together," said Yan Feng. Then, he looked at Lin Feng, instantly looking furious. "I remember back then, I told you not to stand next to my wife," said Yan Feng, coldly. "He's my assistant and we're going to participate in the tournament as a team." Mu Lin Xue retorted. "He can't be your assistant," said Yan Feng coldly. Then he looked at Lin Feng and said, "Talk." Lin Feng frowned and asked Mu Lin Shui, "Is it safe to be here at the Goldfire Tower?" The Yen clan was in the northern part of Goldfire City, and they had a lot of influence. So, Lin Feng had to make sure that they wouldn't have another run-in as they did in the marketplace. "Goldfire Tower guarantees the safety of those who rank in the top 10, said Mu Lin Shui. Goldfire Tower was an important institution in Goldfire City, so if anyone got hurt in one of their tournaments, then they might lose participants in future competitions. Therefore, the rule was that those who ranked in the top 10 couldn't be killed, otherwise, they become enemies with Goldfire Tower. Oh. Lin Feng nodded and smiled at Yen Feng indifferently, "Piss off." Yen Feng was astonished, he couldn't believe what he had just heard. Lin Feng was telling him to, piss off. "In the northern part of Goldfire City, nobody has ever told me to piss off, even in the entire city," said Yen Feng provocatively. Just who did Lin Feng think he was? "Lin Shui, let's go," said Lin Feng, smiling at Mu Lin Shui. Then he stretched out his hand and grabbed hers. "Right." Mu Lin Shui smiled in a resplendent way and held hands with Lin Feng. Then, they passed in front of Yen Feng and walked away. Yen Feng was furious. He was proud, and Lin Feng had ignored him. Besides, he was taking his future wife away. When the crowd saw Lin Feng and Mu Lin Shui holding hands, they finally understood what was going on. "Who's that? He dares flirt with Yen Feng's future wife," they thought. "Yen Feng understands cosmic energies already, it won't be long before he breaks through to the Huang Qi layer," thought more people. Members from the Yen clan frowned, some of them even looked upset. "Brother Mu, why are your people humiliating Yen Feng?" asked the leader of the Yen clan in a cold way. "Lin Shui," shouted the leader of the Mu clan. Mu Lin Shui turned her head and said, "I know what I'm doing and will bear responsibility for my actions. If the Mu clan wants to expel me, then I won't object." Mu Lin Shui had waited for that day for a long time, just like Yen Feng. She knew how strong Lin Feng was when it came to deployment spells, so she didn't care about the Mu clan's influence anymore. "You," the leader of the Mu clan was furious. He glanced at Lin Feng and said, "You're shameless." "Mui's request is difficult," thought Lin Feng. Because of Mu Lin Shui's social status, saving her was becoming even more difficult. He had to rank in the top 10, otherwise, nobody would protect him. Not to mention he had to beat Yen Feng. "I've always been audacious," said Lin Feng shrugging. He didn't know what else to say at this point. The tournament hadn't even started, he had already offended 2 groups. It's almost as if he was cursed to upset other people. Boom! A terrifying fire started burning on Yen Feng's robes. He was standing in the sky above Lin Feng, just one step away from killing him. "Lin Shui, what is he doing?" asked Lin Feng, pointing at Yen Feng. "I don't know," said Mu Lin Shui shrugging. They looked at Yen Feng just like they'd look at a monkey in a zoo. Chapter 1631, The Great Tournament. Mu Lin Shui was pleasantly surprised, she didn't realize that Lin Feng could have a sense of humor in such worrying circumstances. Yen Feng wanted to scare him and had provoked him, but it hadn't worked, and now Yen Feng looked like a buffoon. Yen Feng was furious. He released more energies, but nobody paid attention to him. He slowly recalled his cosmic energies and said coldly, "Mu Lin Shui, you will regret that. After the tournament, when we get to the Yen clan, nobody will be able to save you anymore." "And you," said Yen Feng turning to Lin Feng. "You don't even know what you did to yourself now." "Lin Shui, let's go," said Lin Feng, smiling at Mu Lin Shui. No need to waste their breath with him. "All right." Then the 2 of them held hands and walked away. Was he really going to get married with the most beautiful lady from the Mu clan? From everybody else's perspective, she was holding hands with another young man. Who's that guy? He's got some balls to upset Yen Feng, some people thought. Lin Feng didn't have time to think about those things. It wouldn't be long before they were going to start the tournament. That Seaman Nan from the eastern part of the city. It is said that he's already a level 2 professor. The only thing is that he hasn't come to the Goldfire Tower yet, so they haven't been able to check. Some people were talking about 2 people who were approaching. Seaman Nan from the eastern part of the city, Guqing Feng from the western part, Yan Feng from the northern part, and Hen Chang Tian from the central part. They were the most talented people of their generation. Mu Lin Shui wasn't just talented, she was also very beautiful. When Mu Lin Shui saw Seaman Nan, she said to Lin Feng, "That Seaman Nan, he's one of the 4 most talented weapon craftspeople in Goldfire City, but he's discreet so nobody really knows how strong he is. I'm guessing that he's at least as strong as Yan Feng." "Alright." Lin Feng nodded. It seemed like making a level 2 weapon wasn't enough to rank in the top 10 at the event. Guqing Feng is here too. "He's a genius from the western part," said Mu Lin Shui. Guqing Feng was wearing silver clothes, and he looked majestic with the wind blowing his robes against him. He silently landed on the area after she identified him to Lin Feng. Lin Feng glanced around, watching everybody arriving. "Lin Feng, look," said Mu Lin Shui, pointing at the main bleachers. "Those people are weapon craftspeople from the Goldfire Tower. The colors of their robes indicate their level: red, orange, yellow, green, cyan, blue, purple, golden red, golden purple. Of which, those colors respectively mean level 1 to level 9. Lin Feng glanced at them. There was only one person who was wearing a golden purple robe, 3 people were wearing golden red robes, 7 people were wearing purple clothes, and most of them wore blue and cyan robes, which meant that there was mostly level 5 and 6 professors. Suddenly, a sword whistled, and everybody looked up to see several strong cultivators riding a magnificent silver sword. That must be Sword Mountain, thought everybody. The cultivators descended from the sky and went to the bleachers where the Yen clan was. It wasn't just Sword Mountain. Many external forces arrived and sat with the weapon manufacturing groups they worked with. So many people, thought Lin Feng. He was surprised to see so many people gathering for this single event. A professor in a yellow robe arrived. Although he was a level 3 professor, he still looked quite young. Hen Chang Tian. Mu Lin Shui pointed him out for Lin Feng and said, "Hen Chang Tian is a disciple of Goldfire Tower. His weapon manufacturing abilities are terrifying as he's already a level 3 professor." Being a level 3 professor was nothing exceptional, but Hen Chang Tian was so young, so it was amazing given his age. Only those who were 30 years old and under could participate in the tournament, and Hen Chang Tian was no exception. He came alone. Mu Lin Shui noticed. He must be confident. Of course, Hen Chang Tian was a level 3 professor, so it was probably difficult for him to find an assistant who wasn't older than 30 and was still strong enough to help him. Sister Lin Shui. At that moment, Mu Qingying and Mu Xiao weren't far from Lin Shui and Lin Feng. The Mu clan was there with them, but they looked depressed. "What's wrong, Qingying?" asked Mu Lin Shui. "There are so many people, I'm very nervous," said Mu Qingying, smiling embarrassedly. The Mu clan was under a lot pressure now. Mu Lin Shui smiled and said, "Relax, you have nothing to lose." Mu Lin Shui said that even though the pressure was so much worse for herself, there were actual consequences for her if she lost. At that moment, Mu Lin Shui sensed that someone was looking at her. She looked to her side and saw Yan Feng. Apparently, he was going to be fabricating weapons not that far from her. At the same time, the 7 professors who wore purple robes rose up in the air and looked at the crowd. Everyone raised their heads and saw that the sun was directly above them, indicating that it was high noon already. "After choosing your place, you cannot move again. You must be at least 10 meters away from the other contestants as well," said one of them to the crowd. "The first round will last for an hour. If you fail to make a weapon, you'll be eliminated. Also, you'll be eliminated if you don't make an imperial weapon. When you leave, don't disturb anyone around you. You'll only have one opportunity. People had prepared themselves for this, but hearing it now made them feel nervous. Only one opportunity, and if they didn't manage to make an imperial weapon, they'd be eliminated. This time, the test was about determination and the ability to make weapons, so failing was forbidden. Now, start making weapons, shouted the weapon manufacturing master. Phew, Mu Qinying took a deep breath. With Mu Xiao, they still couldn't manage to make imperial weapons every time, only sometimes. But no matter, they couldn't fail this time. They glanced at Mu Lin Shui and Lin Feng. Mu Lin Shui had already taken out a cauldron and materials, and she was starting the fire. She had prepared everything and just making an imperial weapon was already easy for her and Lin Feng. The first round shouldn't be a problem for them. Good luck, but remember that if you fail, you'll be mine, said Yan Feng in a cold way, taking out his own things. Chapter 1632, First round. Yan Feng was using an ancient snake cauldron which had snakes and dragons carved on it. After he released his fire, Lin Feng was surprised to see a powerful fire cosmic energy burning. It was fierce, brutal, and wild. The fire he uses is a green-scaled snake fire. The Yan clan killed some green-scaled snake emperors for him and stole their cosmic fire to improve his own, said Mu Lin Shui to Lin Feng using telepathy. Lin Feng smiled wryly. Disciples from rich families seem to always be spoiled. Their families spent a lot of money for them and Yan Feng was no exception. Lin Feng noticed that many other people had special types of fire as well, especially the other geniuses. Hen Changtian specifically caught his eye with his golden fire. That tournament wasn't fair at all. Mu Lin Shui's fire and cauldron weren't bad, but their quality was much lower than everyone else's. Yan Feng glanced at Lin Feng, seeing how the first round wasn't that difficult, he didn't need to focus that much. After a short time, Yan Feng shouted at the person who was with him, "Carve the marks." His assistant was a girl wearing black clothes. She wasn't as beautiful as Mu Lin Shui and her qi was very cold. However, she was an expert at carving marks, and her speed was noteworthy. Very quickly, a sword started whistling above Yan Feng's cauldron. Feng is already a master when it comes to making swords, so the first round should be extremely easy for him, said the leader of the Yan clan smiling. Yan Feng was the fastest one. He doesn't even need to try this round, said a strong cultivator from Sword Mountain. All the cultivators from the Yan clan focused on swords because they cooperated with Sword Mountain. Humph. Mu Lin Shui is shameless. I wonder if she should even become Yan Feng's wife, said the leader of the Yan clan in a cold way. Mu Lin Shui and Lin Feng seemed to have an intimate relation. How could Yan Feng want a woman who was sleeping with other men? How could she even act proudly and arrogantly like that? Yan Feng's sword whistled in the air. Then a few seconds later, Hen Changtian and the others also finished making their imperial weapons. One of the 7 purple-clothed strong cultivators from Goldfire Tower smiled. How will those 4 rank in your opinion? No idea. In terms of level, Hen Changtian could be the strongest one, but he's making weapons alone. Yan Feng and the others have assistants, so it's much easier for them, said another one smiling. They didn't care if anyone could hear them. I think Yan Feng is the best. He makes quality weapons, his fire is great, and he is the fastest. I think he might rank first, said another one smiling. It was the guy who wanted Yan Feng as his disciple. Guqin Feng is not a weakling either, said another one smiling. Let's see. We won't learn much in the first round after all. Maybe some of them will make level 4 imperial weapons later. Said one of them, his eyes were twinkling. Indeed. Look at that girl, the one from the Mu clan. She's good but her fire, cauldron, and pace aren't as good as Yan Feng's. However, the young man next to her is good. They could rank in the top 10 if they work together. After all, she's already a level 2 professor, said another master wearing purple clothes. Hee, that girl is going to become Yan Feng's wife, said Yan Feng's future teacher. They all smiled at him and said, you already know Yan Feng's attitude, but if she does rank in the top 10, and doesn't want to get married with Yan Feng, then nobody will be able to force her. Yan Feng's future teacher looked surprised. Indeed, if she managed to rank in the top 10, then Goldfire Tower would have to protect her. But the Mu clan and the Yan clan have an agreement, so you're not quite right. Besides, it's too early to talk about that now. First, she has to rank in the top 10, said Yan Feng's future teacher. Even though he wasn't Yan Feng's teacher yet, he already considered himself as such. We'll see, said another one smiling. At that moment, Lin Feng rose up in the air and started carving deployment marks. It was nothing too difficult for him as he was using a shattering spell. That team is great, that boy's deployment marks are perfect for Mu Lin Shui, thought the professor who thought highly of Mu Lin Shui and Lin Feng. He wasn't the only one to think that way, some of the other professors were also pleasantly surprised. Yan Feng looked at his assistant, the girl in black clothes, and asked, what do you think of her? Yan Feng looked angry asking, but he still wanted to compare himself to them. She's alright. I'm not amazed, but she's not bad either. I don't think they can win at least, said the girl wearing black clothes. Yan Feng nodded. He didn't think about it too much after that. Lin Feng's deployment marks weren't too complex. It was only the first round, and making an imperial weapon was the only requirement. After carving the marks, he started hammering the weapon. Finally, they made a sword, an imperial weapon. The Mu clan watched as the sword rose up in the air. They were surprised, Mu Lin Shui's assistant wasn't bad. There were no mistakes in his deployment marks. But they still felt uneasy, just where did Lin Feng come from and who was he? In any case, it was far from being enough. To rank in the top 10, they had a long way to go still. Even though it was only the first round, the crowd had already noticed many geniuses. Mu Qingying didn't pay attention to anyone else, her forehead was already covered in sweat. She was using her full strength to make that imperial weapon. Mu Xiao and Mu Qingying couldn't succeed that easily, so they couldn't afford to get distracted. In the end, they did succeed in making an imperial weapon. Afterwards, Mu Qingying looked very happy. Chapter 1633, Fabrication Speed, we did it. I can move on to the next round, thought Mu Qingying, looking at her weapon which was floating in the air. She then glanced at Mu Lin Shui and Lin Feng. They had finished before her and were patiently waiting. Lin Feng fooled me, thought Mu Qingying, glancing at Lin Feng. Back when he first joined the Mu clan, he hadn't said much, and he looked ordinary, but he was actually so good at carving deployment marks and casting deployment spells. He couldn't be any worse than Mu Xiao in fact. Miss Lin Shui, good luck. I'm sure you can rank in the top 10, said Mu Qingying to Mu Lin Shui, smiling. Thanks, you too. Your weapon is not too bad, so you should relax, said Mu Lin Shui smiling. Mu Lai and Mu Yu groaned coldly and said, with just you guys, we're the only ones who will be able to make the clan shine. Mu Lin Shui glanced at Mu Lai and smiled indifferently, don't worry. In the future, nobody will try to steal your resources in the Mu clan, at least, I won't. Mu Lin Shui's uncle wanted her to leave the clan and hand her over to the Yan clan because of his own children. They were talented, so he wanted the Mu clan to focus on them. Mu Lin Shui was a problem, but if she left, his children would become the geniuses of the clan. Then they would get all the resources from the clan for themselves. Because of this, Mu Lai and Mu Yu considered Mu Lin Shui as their enemy. You are aware of what you're worth, that's good. When you go to the Yan clan in the future, you won't have problems anymore. Of course, since your assistant humiliated the Yan clan, maybe they will reject you instead, said Mu Lai smiling mockingly, trying to infuriate Mu Lin Shui. Mu Lin Shui looked at him in a cold way, but Lin Feng smiled and said, Lin Shui, don't waste your time talking to them. It's obvious that they have no values. Alright. Mu Lin Shui nodded and ignored Mu Lai. You've got a big mouth. Just wait and see, we'll know soon if you have the skill to back up your words, said Mu Li. At that moment, the 2 hours had already passed. One of the purple-clothed professors jumped forwards and shouted, those who aren't done can stop, you're eliminated, so you can leave. You were too slow. Many people left disappointed. Half of the participants had already been eliminated from the first round. The purple-clothed professor glanced at the remaining people, noting that there were a few thousand left. Then he said, all right, get ready for the second round. You have 2 hours again. During the second round, you can fail and try again if you finish within the allocated time, but only those who can make level 2 Imperial weapons can move on. The maximum number of people who can move on to the next round will be 100. Therefore, the faster you are, the better. Everybody listened calmly. They weren't surprised because they knew that thousands of people were too much to work with. Level 2 Imperial weapon, whispered Mu Qingying to herself. She smiled wryly, it seemed that the first round was her limit. She couldn't make a level 2 Imperial weapon, on top of that, only the first 100 people could succeed. The second round starts now, said the purple-clothed professor before he jumped back. Scorching hot flames appeared all around. The participants couldn't waste time during the second round, so they all pushed their flames immediately. Lin Shui, make a sword, and use the best materials, I'll change the deployment spell to accommodate, said Lin Feng to Mu Lin Shui. They had already talked about the tournament, but they hadn't discussed the details of the second round. In any case, they didn't lack good materials. Alright, I'll listen to you, said Mu Lin Shui smiling at Lin Feng. She was extremely nervous already. Lin Feng and Mu Lin Shui hadn't made that many level 2 Imperial weapons. Of course, she didn't have any doubts about Lin Feng's abilities to cast deployment spells or her own abilities. If they focused, a level 2 Imperial weapon shouldn't be a problem. The 7 purple-clothed professors glanced at the crowd and smiled, you said Mu Lin Shui was good? But Yan Feng has already released half of the fire required, while Mu Lin Shui just started releasing her fire. Another professor was looking at them and smiling. Speed and power are two different things. She is slower than Yan Feng, but that doesn't mean she isn't as talented as him. This just means that she doesn't have the same advantages. Alright, let's wait and see, said Yan Feng's future professor smiling indifferently. That round was more intense than the first round. Almost all the contestants were covered in sweat. Boom! Explosions sounded as a cauldron filled with materials exploded. The 2 participants were shaking violently, their soul strength wasn't enough, and they hadn't been able to stand the fire. They smiled wryly and stopped. They instead decided to watch the others, hoping to learn something from them. Mu Qingying was nervous, her throat was completely dry, she felt exhausted, and she looked desperate. With Mu Zhao's deployment spells, we can't possibly make a level 2 Imperial weapon. We should just give up too, thought Mu Qingying. Then, her fire disappeared. Mu Zhao suddenly looked at her and said, Miss. We participated in the tournament, which is good already, but we can't possibly pass the second round. Let's just watch the others instead. Mu Qingying was exhausted. She looked at Mu Lin Shui, Lin Feng was already carving deployment marks and a sword shape had already formed. Those deployment marks are so complex. Mu Zhao couldn't possibly carve such marks, thought Mu Qingying stupefied. She was very unhappy thinking that such an incredible deployment spellcaster had spent time with her and she hadn't realized. Even the first time she had seen Lin Feng, she told him that his deployment spell wasn't good enough. Lin Feng had never tried to defend himself in front of her. Just like he had said several times now, he hadn't joined the Mu clan for her. At that moment, Lin Feng was very focused, his carved deployment marks were intertwining in complex ways. What a powerful deployment spell. If Lin Shui doesn't make any mistakes, managing to make the weapon fuse together with the marks, then they will succeed in making a level 2 imperial weapon, thought Mu Qingying. She seemed awestruck. Mu Xiao didn't look so happy. He knew Lin Feng was good, but he didn't know Lin Feng was that good. Those deployment marks are incredible. I wonder how many small deployment spells they contain, thought the professor who had previously thought highly of Lin Feng and Mu Lin Shui. He looked pleasantly surprised. He found nothing to criticize as the marks were precise, distinct, clear, perfect. Good, shouted the professor next to him loudly. Yan Feng rose up in the air, having already made a level 2 imperial weapon. He was the first one to succeed even. Huh, good, good, people from the Yan clan stood up, feeling immense pride. Yan Feng also looked proud and arrogant, then he turned to Mu Lin Shui and Lin Feng. Lin Feng was now hammering the weapon. You overestimated yourself. I will take Mu Lin Shui in my arms and you will stand there watching us, thought Yan Feng angrily. Suddenly, someone else rose up in the air. It was Hen Chang Tian. He had also made a level 2 imperial weapon. Chapter 1634, End of the second round. After Hen Chang Tian, Si Man Nan and Guqin Feng finished their weapons. Even though it was difficult to say how strong someone could really become at their age, it was obvious that Hen Chang Tian and the three others had the most potential. The crowd in the Yan clan's bleachers were smiling happily. They chatted with the strong cultivators from Sword Mountain. On the Mu clan side, some people looked upset, while some only frowned. Only the leader of the Mu clan looked indifferent, calm and serene. Nobody could guess what he was thinking. With that speed, they can probably finish in the top 100 this round, but they won't rank in the top 10 in the third round, thought Mu Lin Shui's uncle, looking at Lin Feng and Mu Lin Shui. At least he hoped Mu Lin Shui wouldn't rank in the top 10 in the next round. More and more people managed to make level 2 weapons. The participants who weren't done were getting more nervous. The ground would shake every now and then as cauldrons exploded. It was easy to make mistakes, especially under such pressure. Even some participants who were outstanding were so nervous that they made mistakes. Some who failed tried again, but they had less time, so it was less likely they'd make it. Since Yan Feng was already done making a level 2 imperial weapon, more people had turned to look at Lin Feng and Mu Lin Shui. Mu Lin Shui and Lin Feng were still concentrating, nobody could distract them. Their movements were perfect, as if they had been coordinating with each other for a long time already. Lin Feng finally finished hammering the weapon, so now, Mu Lin Shui was putting on the finishing touches. Relax, everything will be fine, said Lin Feng after he saw that Mu Lin Shui was sweating a lot. He whispered this in her ear while using his sleeve to wipe the sweat off her forehead. Even though Mu Lin Shui was a genius, she hadn't been through as much as Lin Feng in her life. That tournament was extremely important to her, more so than to Lin Feng. But she felt relieved to see Lin Feng so calm. She took a deep breath and continued. At that moment, the weapon manufacturing master in the golden-purple robe was sitting at the very top of the bleachers. In front of him were the three masters in golden-red clothes. One of them looked at Lin Feng and Mu Lin Shui and whispered, "This time Chang Tian is working by himself," and everybody noticed Yan Feng, but there are some discreet geniuses. With his experience and advanced age, he could see through some things. People who looked ordinary were often the strongest ones. Of course, that was not guaranteed. "Who's that?" asked the professor next to the one in golden-red clothes. He was referring to Lin Feng and Mu Lin Shui. "You mean that girl? I know her, she's from the Mu clan, and her name is Mu Lin Shui. She's very talented from what I've heard. The little boy from the Yan clan wants to marry her but she doesn't want to," replied another professor smiling indifferently. They didn't know all the young people from Goldfire City, but they knew the most famous ones, including Mu Lin Shui. "I'm not talking about her, I'm talking about the little boy next to her," said the professor smiling. He was interested in Lin Feng. He had noticed how incredible Lin Feng's deployment spells were, not having made any mistakes. Even though he looked ordinary, he could become an incredible deployment spellcaster in the future. It was difficult to know how strong such people really were, but Lin Feng didn't look nervous at all. He even cheered Mu Lin Shui up. "I don't know, but he's just Mu Lin Shui's assistant. I don't know if he's a member of the Mu clan or not, but do you think he's that good?" "I can ask around for you," said another professor, smiling. "No need, I still want to watch him." "What about you, buddy? Anyone worth watching?" "Huh, it's a secret," said a professor laughing wholeheartedly. "At the end of the tournament, I'll also know who the strongest ones are, so if you say nothing now, you won't be able to choose anyone then," said the other one laughing. 56 people are already done making level 2 Imperial weapons. "My fire isn't powerful enough, I still need to improve it," thought Mu Qinying. "Done," shouted Mu Lai extremely loudly. Mu Lai and Mu Yu raised their heads, they looked overjoyed. They had done it. Good. Mu Lin Shui's uncle stood up and shouted with joy. Mu Lai and Mu Yu were a great team, they were even better than Lin Feng and Mu Lin Shui. After the tournament, Mu Lai and Mu Yu would become the heroes of the Mu clan. Mu Lin Shui was calm with Lin Feng standing beside her. With him there, it was as if the outside world had nothing to do with her. She didn't rush like most others. 63 people had succeeded, and at that moment, Lin Feng and Mu Lin Shui's imperial weapon rose up in the air. It was a sword. Mu Lin Shui smiled thinly. She didn't even raise her head to look at the sword, she instead turned to Lin Feng and smiled thinly, but she didn't look surprised though. "Lin Feng," said Mu Lin Shui. Lin Feng smiled, "You're not going to thank me, right?" "No, I'm just thinking, maybe we should make love at some point," said Mu Lin Shui jokingly. With that, Lin Feng smiled wryly. "Humph." Mu Lin Shui also smiled wryly after she heard that, she even stuck her tongue out. "Sister Lin Shui, congratulations," said Mu Qinying. She admired Mu Lin Shui. Even though she had given up during the second round, she felt even more determined after watching Mu Lin Shui. "Someday, you'll do it too," said Mu Lin Shui, smiling at Mu Qinying. Mu Qinying nodded and looked at Lin Feng. He looked calm, as if they hadn't worked so hard. "It's almost the end, you'll definitely rank in the top 10, Sister Lin Shui," said Mu Qinying. "Top 10? Mu Lai groaned coldly and said, "You ranked 64 in the second round, how could you rank in the top 10, you morons?" Mu Lin Shui calmly glanced at Mu Lai, but said nothing. To her, Mu Lai and Mu Yu were insignificant. "Hee, Lin Shui, you're soon going to join my clan soon," said Yan Feng. Mu Lin Shui glanced at him mockingly, she didn't even reply to him. No matter what he said, she despised him. When the 100th team rose up in the air, one of the professors in purple stood up and smiled, "All right now, those who have been eliminated can move away." Many people then left. Very quickly, only 100 people were left on the stage. The tournament was nearing its end. Chapter 1635, The Prizes. The crowd looked at the participants. Initially, there were dozens of thousands of people, now there were 100 only. Maybe, in a few years later, they'd be incredible heroes. The last part of the tournament would be an opportunity for them to rise. At the same time, the 7 professors in purple clothes walked forwards and said, "Before we start the finals, the professor in golden purple clothes has an announcement to make concerning the prizes." The crowd grew excited, especially considering that Goldfire Tower was the richest group in Goldfire City. They probably had anything anyone could want. The level 9 professor slowly walked forwards with the 3 professors in golden red robes following him. They looked at the young people and smiled in a gentle way. "Hello, masters," the young people all bowed respectfully as a sign of respect. Those professors were already terrifyingly powerful. Those were probably already at the top of the Huang Qi layer. "You're too polite. You're all outstanding young people, and if you continue making great efforts, then you'll be like us in the future, perhaps even surpassing us, said the level 9 professor smiling. I'll be managing the finals, said the level 9 professor smiling. The winners of the tournament will obtain a special fire. Our group, Gold Fire Tower, killed a 9-headed snake which can swallow animals' fire. As such, medium-level emperors or below can't possibly stand that fire. If they get attacked by it, they could only die. We took that fire and it will act as the first prize of this tournament, said the level 9 professor. A 9-headed imperial snake, and a high-level emperor. If I could get it, I'd be able to make even better weapons. I could also easily kill most of my enemies, thought everybody. They calmed down again very quickly though. Very few of them thought that they could rank in the top 10, let alone first. I must get that fire, thought Yan Feng. His eyes were twinkling with greed. He smiled and thought, this time, I'll go back with a beautiful girl and a wonderful prize. Alright, that fire is for the first place winner, the second place winner will obtain an armor, a level 7 imperial weapon. This armor can protect anyone from a medium-level emperor or below, said the level 9 professor. That item was priceless. The third prize is a level 7 imperial weapon, but it's an offensive weapon. A level 7 imperial weapon again, the prizes are even better than 30 years ago, thought some older people who had watched the last tournament. Those who rank 4th and 5th will obtain a level 6 imperial weapon, and those who will rank 6th to 10th will obtain level 5 imperial weapons. I don't need to tell you what they are, you will just have to wait and see, said the weapon manufacturing master in the golden purple clothes smiling. Apart from that, the first 10 will be protected in Goldfire City. You must understand what that means. If you attack someone who ranks in the top 10, you will become an enemy of Goldfire Tower. Besides that, I have some good news. The very best ones will have the opportunity to study with one of the 3 teachers wearing the golden red clothes for a year. Of course, if your relationship evolves and you become their disciples, I will only be very happy to hear it. Learning from level 8 teachers, many people were overly excited at this point. However, if one of them notices one of you, they can also choose you, and if you agree, you can become their disciple. I don't need to explain that. No matter, you are free to do whatever you want, said the level 9 professor smiling. Finally, the top 10 participants or those I choose will have the opportunity to directly become members of Goldfire Tower, said the level 9 professor. Everybody smiled and nodded. Then, he moved back as it was time to start the finals. Chapter 1636, gradually showing their talent, so many prizes, thought the crowd, sighing. Those who ranked in the top 10 would get so many things, especially the very best ones. Yan Feng had shown how strong he was in the second round, so he would probably rank first. Guqing Feng and Si-Man Nan were also very strong. The level 9 professor and the professors in the golden red robes went back to their seats. The level 7 professor in purple clothes was still in the air as he said, "You have 8 hours for the third round. You can fail, but in those 8 hours you need to show your best imperial weapon. With that, we'll consider your best weapon for the ranking." 8 hours. They had so much time. Now, the finals can start, said the 7 professors in purple clothes at the same time. The 100 remaining participants immediately put their cauldrons on fire after they announced the start. Phew, Mu Lin Shui took a deep breath. Everything they had done so far had all led up to this moment. Her fate depended on the finals. Even though she had started to relax in the second round, she was starting to get very nervous again. It'll be fine. We definitely have a chance to rank in the top 10, said Lin Feng gently. Mu Lin Shui nodded. Finishing in the top 10 wouldn't be a problem, but maybe that wouldn't be enough. Let's start. This time, Mu Lin Shui took out a black iron meteorite which looked incredibly dense. It also had a silvery outline. Sister Lin Shui took out a meteorite. That material is extremely hard, so she'll need a lot of time to burn it correctly, thought Mu Qingying. In the next 8 hours, she'd only be able to try 3 times with that material. Mu Qinying glanced at Yan Feng. He was using a red stone, but she didn't know what it was. Even though he hadn't started making a weapon yet, she understood it was a fire-type material. Mu Qinying had guessed right. Mu Lin Shui closed her eyes and controlled her fire with her soul. It took her an hour to get the meteorite to melt. She was already covered in sweat and looked exhausted with that. Lin Feng closed his eyes. He just had to wait, and then he'd be able to carve in the marks. Yan Feng is using the 9-weapon transformation technique, and he's already finished the 3rd transformation. He will probably succeed with the 4th one too, said a strong cultivator from Sword Mountain. The 9-weapon transformation technique can improve the general level of the materials, but more importantly, it allows a cultivator to control the process even better by making their soul and the weapon fuse together. The chances of success are greatly increased whilst using that technique, said the leader from the Yen clan, smiling happily. The 9-weapon transformation technique was a technique which was passed from generation to generation in the Yen clan. They only had a part of the ancient scriptures, but it was already enough to make ordinary stones become gold. They had a saying in the clan, the 9-weapon transformation technique could make emperors become great emperors. Indeed, it's practically guaranteed that Yan Feng will rank first this time, said a cultivator from Sword Mountain, smiling. Mu Lin Shui continued controlling her fire, having made no mistakes so far. The embryo of the weapon had already appeared, and the outline of a spear was forming. A spear? The members of the Yen clan smiled coldly. They didn't have a lot of space to work with, so it was difficult to carve marks into them, and spears weren't considered special weapons either. Besides, at the same level, they weren't necessarily any better than other weapons. That was probably a bad choice on their part. She already gave up on the inside, thought Mu Lin Shui's uncle, smiling coldly. The one you liked sucks. Surprisingly, she's only making a spear. She can't rank in the top 10 with that, said Yan Feng's future teacher, laughing. The one who liked Lin Feng and Lin Shui frowned. He was just as surprised as everyone else to see that the embryo of had a spear shape. Carving marks into such a weapon wouldn't be easy, especially seeing how the embryo of the spear Mu Lin Shui was making looked even more complex than an ordinary spear. It was more precise, and more detailed. The masters of Gold Fire Tower all had someone who had attracted their attention. Apart from those in purple, one master in a golden red robe was paying attention to Mu Lin Shui. He was pleasantly surprised. He smiled and thought, finally, we're going to see his real strength. He had been paying attention to Lin Feng the entire time, but he found Lin Feng too mysterious. Lin Feng, said Mu Lin Shui, opening her eyes. Lin Feng suddenly opened his eyes, he looked determined. Suddenly, a terrifying qi surrounded him, along with dazzling lights. Earth abstruse energies emerged from his hands as he started carving marks. The space around him shook violently as marks started appearing. Apart from earth abstruse energy, he also used immortal abstruse energy to carve. Boom! Lin Feng's hands shook, and the marks started intertwining. Empty space deployment spell. Many people were staring at Lin Feng now. Surprisingly, he was carving empty space deployment marks. Slash, slash, slash. Lin Feng seemed like he was dancing as he carved the mark. It seemed like the more difficult the mark, the faster he moved. Bzzz. Now destructive energies emerged, and the small deployment spells started intertwining. Very quickly, the deployment spells fused together. That's, Mu Qinying was astonished. Lin Feng's deployment spells were so powerful. People from the Mu clan and the Yen clan frowned. Mu Lin Shui's assistant could carve such terrifying deployment spells. Go down. Lin Feng shook his hand and his deployment marks all crashed onto the embryo of the weapon. Those deployment marks still aren't enough, said the leader of the Yen clan, smiling coldly. However, After he said that, Lin Feng shook his hands again and continued carving empty space deployment marks. He wasn't done yet. Chapter 1637, Transformations. The leader of the Yen clan was surprised. He then added, even if you can make more deployment spells, Yen Feng is still going to rank first, or at least in the top 3, while you have no chance. Many people were finally noticing Lin Feng. But, he remained calm and indifferent. Very quickly, Lin Feng carved more deployment marks which crashed onto the weapon again. Even then, Lin Feng still wasn't done, he continued carving marks again. Many people's hearts started racing at that moment. Mu Qinying was fixedly staring at Lin Feng's marks. Because the embryo of that spear was so complex, Lin Feng had to carve a wide range of deployment marks, which made things too complex and too easy to make mistakes. Lin Feng, however, did everything step by step, without making any mistakes. Mu Xiao, back then, the deployment spell you showed me was Lin Feng's. Am I right? Asked Mu Qinying, as if she had been talking to herself, but Mu Xiao still heard her and started trembling. Mu Qinying had wanted to ask that question for a while, and now that she was done with the tournament, she had no reason not to. Miss Qinying, Mu Xiao bowed. He wanted to explain but Mu Qinying ignored him. She shook her hand and said, there's no need to explain anything. Mu Qinying now understood that Mu Xiao had fooled her and lied. Lin Feng hadn't felt the need to justify himself or explain anything because he never really cared. Mu Qinying felt ridiculous and pathetic now. She was so confident in herself, even till now there was a part of her which thought that Lin Feng had joined the Mu clan just for her. Lin Shui, why are you better than me in everything? Am I too stupid? Thought Mu Qinying. Mu Lin Shui had immediately noticed that Lin Feng was outstanding while Mu Qinying had always thought that he was ordinary. Mu Xiao didn't know what Mu Qinying was thinking, he was too worried about his future. What would happen to him now? I knew it. That little boy is special. I'm not stupid in thinking that those two might rank in the top 10, said the professor in purple clothes who had noticed Lin Feng and Mu Lin Shui before. He was smiling indifferently, but the professor next to him groaned coldly and said, do you have so much faith in those two? At the very least, I don't think they're that bad, replied the professor. The Yen clan and the Mu clan gambled with Mu Lin Shui and Yen Feng's fates at stake. How about we bet too, said Yen Feng's future teacher, smiling in a cold way. Yen Feng was using the 9-weapon transformation technique, so he could probably make a level 3 imperial weapon. With that in mind, how could Lin Feng and Mu Lin Shui compete with him? What do you want to bet? Asked the other one. If Yen Feng wins, you show me your weapon fabrication technique, if he loses, I'll show you mine. What do you think? Said Yen Feng's future teacher. He had always wanted to know what technique that professor used. The professor was surprised. Apparently, Yen Feng's future teacher had a lot of faith in his future student. Can I think about it more? Asked the professor, smiling indifferently. Of course you can, said the other one smiling. He knew what the other professor was thinking. He wanted to see how far Lin Feng's deployment mark technique went. Now he paid even more attention to Lin Feng. Lin Feng was still carving empty space marks, the holy marks on the weapon were becoming more and more dazzling. He's carving a great deployment spell using so many small deployment spells. All the while those small deployment spells are perfect for the weapon, thought the crowd. Many people had hidden their true powers, but Lin Feng was the best one so far. So, what do you say? Asked Yen Feng's future teacher. The professor narrowed his eyes and stared at Lin Feng's deployment marks. He shook his head and said, all right, I accept your bet. Good, but don't go back on your word now, said Yen Feng's future teacher. I never lie. All right, everybody here is a witness, the 5 others smiled and nodded. Maybe the champion of the tournament will be Chang Tian, said another one. Chang Tian was very strong. Even though he worked alone, he had already finished making the embryo and was now carving marks. He was making a big tower which was 3 meters high and was entirely made of gold. Apparently, carving marks didn't seem to make him too tired, but he was having to carve a lot. If his golden tower had any special powers, and if he managed to make a level 3 tower, then it'd be better than most ordinary level 3 imperial weapons. That was why that professor thought highly of him. Guqing Feng was making a fan which contained ice-cold energies. Si Man Nan was making a pair of gigantic wings. Yan Feng's weapon was the most ordinary amongst the 4 geniuses, he was making a sword, again. Slash, at that moment, 2 hours had already passed. Lin Feng seemed to have finished carving in his marks. Their weapon was still only an embryo, but its energies were terrifying. That deployment spell is explosively terrifying, thought the crowd in awe. It seems like those 2 aren't going to try a second time. They made such great efforts anyways, they couldn't possibly put as much energy in a second weapon, thought the crowd. Boom, a scorching hot fire hit the stage. Yan Feng's sword embryo was absorbing terrifying amounts of that fire. At that moment, he glanced at Lin Feng and Mu Lin Xue and said in a cold way, "You hid your real strength, but it looks like I'll still have to disappoint you." 4th transformation. With that, the bright red sword embryo's shape changed again, its fire became even more terrifying. "Rise," shouted Si Man Nan at that moment. His wings embryo surprisingly rose up in the air and shook, he had hidden something too. Chapter 1638, Weapon Clouds. Those wings could definitely be a level 3 imperial weapon and the quality wouldn't be low, thought everybody after they saw the embryo of Si Man Nan's wings. On top of that, Si Man Nan and his assistant were carving marks together. They were using wind-type strength to carve marks and their energy was ever increasing. Guqing Feng's fan was an ice fan, which emanated a frost which would send a chill down anyone's back. "No, you can't," said a young man as the ice energies surrounded him. Not only him, his cauldron also started freezing, his fire fading. His assistant had moved back silently. The crowd was speechless. They couldn't attack others, but Guqing Feng hadn't done it on purpose, it was just that his energies were too vast. A professor in purple clothes looked embarrassed. The young man broke through the ice, and besides the shivering, he looked furious. It had been so difficult to get to the finals, and now he was going to get eliminated like that? You still have time. Go to another place and continue making your weapon. In any case, with your strength, you wouldn't have ranked in the top 10. You still need to improve a lot, said one of the professors in purple. That young man lowered his head and remained silent. Then, he took his cauldron away. He didn't want to make a weapon anymore. He was too upset, and he knew that he couldn't compete with those people anyways. Watching up close wasn't bad either. At that moment, golden lights filled the stage as Hen Chang Tian's tower reached the clouds, its energy pressing down on everyone. That's a level 3 imperial weapon. Who could defeat him, thought the crowd. Marks, condense, shouted Lin Feng again. In a flash, dazzling lights emerged from his marks as they intertwined together. Hammer, shouted Lin Feng. Instantly, Mu Lin Xue threw the hammer at Lin Feng. He moved his hand and caught it without even looking up. Then he started hammering the weapon relentlessly. Is that the final version, thought the crowd. The energies were already explosive, so how much stronger could it get? Nobody could be sure. That deployment spell could definitely make a level 3 imperial weapon, and it would be a powerful weapon at that, but is it enough? Whispered Yan Feng's future teacher. The other professor in purple clothes smiled and said, it seems that you're starting to regret. The tournament isn't over yet, so don't get so happy too early. That spear is great, and the deployment spell is explosive, the materials are the best, and finally, I'm certain that it can kill low-level emperors. All in all, there's nothing Yan Feng does that they can't do, said the teacher who thought highly of Lin Feng and Mu Lin Xue. He looked calm outwardly, but on the inside, he was nervous. Lin Feng and Mu Lin Xue's weapon was extremely complex. Lin Feng's deployment spell was actually too complex. If they had made a sword, it would have already finished by now. "Huh, you'll soon be disappointed," said Yan Feng's future teacher, smiling wholeheartedly. He felt like he had already won the bet. At that moment, Yan Feng opened his eyes again, flames bursting out of them. Even his blood started boiling and roaring. "This is the power of my blood," said Yan Feng. Suddenly, blood started drifting out of his body. The embryo of his weapon started shaking violently, even emitting whistling sounds. 9 Weapon Transformation Technique, 5th Transformation, Blood Transformation. Bleck. Yan Feng spat out his blood onto the weapon, darkening it to a dark red shade. The leader of the Yan clan stood up. "The champion is going to appear soon." Quickly after, he was surrounded by a cloud of red colors. The sword was condensing, and the red color was turning into a red weapon cloud. Weapon cloud, the crowd shivered. Was Yan Feng going to make a level 4 imperial weapon? But could he? No wonder he chose a sword, thought some people. No wonder the Yan clan is so sure that Yan Feng is going to win. They knew he could make a level 4 imperial weapon. "Huh, buddy, I'll definitely get your technique now," said Yan Feng's future teacher smiling. He already knew that Yan Feng could make level 4 imperial weapons. The professor next to him looked distraught. Maybe he really had made a mistake. Lin Feng and Mu Lin Xue were a great team, but he didn't know that Yan Feng could make level 4 imperial weapons. He turned rigid and said, "The tournament isn't over, we'll see." Alright, we'll wait until the end of the tournament." Yan Feng's future teacher smiled happily. Cough, cough. Mu Lin Xue had noticed Yan Feng's weapon cloud and she was looking upset. She started releasing even more fire. "Don't worry Mu Lin Xue, after the tournament is over, I'll take good care of you," said Yan Feng arrogantly. Mu Lin Xue's mouth was bleeding as she bit her lip, but she continued releasing more fire. "Do your best and leave the rest to me," said Lin Feng to Mu Lin Xue in a calm way. Mu Lin Xue nodded and looked at the weapon. She could feel Lin Feng's confidence, which made her feel more confident too. Lin Feng suddenly stopped and then released a terrifying strength. He put his fingers on the weapon and continued carving more deployment marks. "He's carving marks again," the crowd frowned. He wasn't done. How courageous. "He's making a double embryo and using 2 deployment spells," thought the teacher who thought highly of Lin Feng. He had hope again. This time, Lin Feng didn't carve the marks so quickly. He also didn't use immortal strength, instead they were pale and mysterious. Nobody knew exactly what kind of marks he was carving. "Is that wind or illusion strength?" thought the professor wearing golden red clothes. That little boy's deployment spells were incredible, having exceeded all their expectations. No matter what the result of the tournament was, he wanted to invite Lin Feng to join him at Goldfire Tower. Even if he didn't make weapons, his deployment spells were useful. The spear appeared indistinctly as lights and sharp energies rolled in waves. A powerful hurricane also formed. Weapon cloud, the crowd was astonished. Lin Feng and Mu Lin Xue had created 2 embryos and a weapon cloud had appeared. Gotcha. An explosion sounded next to Lin Feng. Mu Lai and Mu Yu's faces were black after their cauldron had exploded. The tournament was over for them. They both raised their heads and saw Lin Feng and Mu Lin Xue's weapon cloud. They were furious. Were Lin Feng and Mu Lin Xue actually better than them? Chapter 1639, Birth of an Imperial Weapon. Mu Lai and Mu Yu had lost, and their father, Mu Lin Xue's uncle, looked furious. His dreams were ruined. The clan wouldn't raise his children after this. Especially after Lin Feng and Mu Lin Xue's made that weapon cloud appear. His cheeks felt extremely hot. Everybody from the Mu clan was staring at him. Mu Lai and Mu Yu are not resilient enough. How can they become strong that way, said the leader of the Mu clan indifferently. Mu Lin Xue's uncle was petrified and furious. Master, there are success rates for these things, people who make weapons can't succeed every time. There are hundreds of teams, and some people fail, it's only normal. Mu Lai and Mu Yu aren't the only ones who failed. Besides, there aren't many people in the clan who are as good as Mu Yu and Mu Lai. Please forgive them. They're not bad at making weapons and failing isn't a problem either. The problem is that they were influenced from seeing Lin Xue's weapon cloud. Of course, only time can tell how they'll evolve, said the leader of the Mu clan indifferently. If Mu Lin Xue defeats Yan Feng, what will the Mu clan do, thought Mu Lin Xue's uncle. His heart was pounding. Would the Mu clan have to give up Mu Lin Xue? If Mu Lin Xue and Lin Feng defeated Yan Feng, they'd have to rank in the top 3. If that was the case, Goldfire Tower would have to protect them, even if the Mu clan changed their mind. Impossible, even with a weapon cloud they can't win, thought Mu Lin Xue's uncle. Everybody had different thoughts. For example, the teacher who thought highly of Lin Feng and Mu Lin Xue suddenly felt relieved. He even whispered, weapon cloud, they can win. He glanced at Yan Feng's future teacher who was next to him. They were both wondering who would win. Lin Feng had exceeded all their expectations. Yan Feng looked upset, but he immediately took a deep breath and tried to control himself. He spat out more blood, making his sword become redder. His cloud was also looking thicker. Boom! At that moment, Hen Chang Tian had begun hammering his tower. A weapon cloud had appeared as well, but at the same time it seemed like it wasn't condensing. Chang Tian can make level 3 imperial weapons on his own, it's just a pity that he doesn't have an assistant who can help him with the deployment spells, thought the members of Goldfire Tower. With Lin Feng's deployment spells, Hen Chang Tian could have made a terrifying weapon. This tournament is great, there are so many geniuses this time, thought the level 9 professor, smiling. Even though many people had failed, there were also many who stood out. Around 20 teams could make level 3 imperial weapons. Hen Chang Tian, Guqing Feng, Si Man Nan and Yan Feng's weapons would have a strength at the top of the 3rd level, Yan Feng might even make a level 4 imperial weapon. Mu Lin Xue and Lin Feng were also amazing, a cloud had appeared which meant they might succeed in making a level 4 imperial weapon as well. If you think highly of someone, do your best to keep them, said the cultivator in golden-purple clothes, still smiling. By now, you've probably already noticed someone you'd like to recruit. The little boy with the amazing deployment spells is interesting. The girl he helps is interesting, but her fire is too weak, however, if she was raised properly, she could become quite strong, said the one who thought highly of Lin Feng. He said that because he was afraid that those next to him would choose them. You're getting too enthusiastic. His deployment spells are good indeed, but he's just helping. He might not be interested in making weapons. I think Yan Feng is better. He's aggressive and arrogant, but he's still young. I like his style, said the professor in golden-red clothes, smiling. What about you? Asked the professor in golden-purple clothes to the last one. That one, said the professor pointing at a young man. He had remained calm the whole time as if the outside world had nothing to do with him. I noticed him too. He's not bad indeed. He's still young and doesn't have incredible techniques, but he can make level 2 weapons and isn't risking making a level 3 imperial weapon, said the professor in golden-purple clothes smiling. The advantage of the finals was that they could focus on certain people, even if those people didn't win. At that moment, Lin Feng was done carving marks, and their weapon was surrounded by cyan lights. No one could tell what Lin Feng had carved. Lin Feng put the embryo of the weapon on the cauldron again and continued hammering it violently. Yan Feng was almost done, his red cloud practically blotted out the entire sky. He had sacrificed his own blood 7 times, and now he looked exhausted. His chi had started looking weaker. But no matter what, he had to defeat Mu Lin Xue and Lin Feng. Almost done. If Yan Feng succeeds, then nobody will beat him. The leader of the Yan clan stood up, looking at Yan Feng's weapon. Many other members from the Yan clan also stood up. They could already see Yan Feng becoming the champion. Yan Feng grabbed the sword with both hands, then his hands turned scarlet red as his blood penetrated the sword. His hands shook 9 times, all the while his sword kept whistling. "Go!" he shouted furiously. His sword pierced through the sky, the red cloud completely being sucked up by the sword. "It's a success," the members of the Yan clan were overjoyed. Mu Lin Shui. Yan Feng turned to Mu Lin Shui and Lin Feng. "You can't disturb other people," shouted the teacher who thought highly of Lin Feng and Mu Lin Shui. Right now, was a crucial moment for them. Yan Feng looked upset, but then he glanced around and saw that it was a level 7 professor who had scolded him. He recalled his chi, quietly remembering that person for when he became stronger. "Hee, it's getting intense," said Yan Feng's future teacher, smiling indifferently. "I still think you will end up giving me your technique." "Humph," another one groaned coldly. Hen Chang Tian and Guqin Feng had succeeded too. They didn't manage to make a level 4 imperial weapon, but a level 3 imperial weapon was still rather good. Only Lin Feng and Mu Lin Shui still have a chance at defeating Yan Feng now, thought the crowd. Mu Lin Shui was soaked in sweat, she looked exhausted. Lin Feng was helping her control the fire now. There were 3 of Lin Feng's clones around the cauldron, helping. Their cloud is not as vast as Yan Feng's, so even if they manage to make a level 4 imperial weapon, it still might not be as good as Yan Feng's, thought the crowd. Lin Feng and Mu Lin Shui's weapon cloud was quite small and cyan in color. Chapter 1640, Ranking C. Man Nan also succeeded, his wings were whistling with strength. With those wings, cultivators could travel at incredible speeds, not to mention their defenses would be amazing too. These were also a level 3 imperial weapon. Amongst the 4 geniuses, only Yan Feng had made a level 4 imperial weapon. Yan Feng's 9-weapon transformation technique was very special, and probably the only reason he succeeded. It seems that the champion has already been decided, thought the crowd. Lin Feng and Mu Lin Shui's weapon cloud still didn't look impressive enough. Lin Feng and Mu Lin Shui could still rank in the top 3 if they managed to make a level 4 imperial weapon, thought the crowd. 4 hours had passed already, which meant that they still had 4 hours to work with. Qin Ying had thought that 8 hours would be enough to make 3 or more weapons, but it seemed that making just 2 weapons in 8 hours was impossible. "Congratulations," said a strong cultivator from Sword Mountain to the leader of the Yan clan. They already felt that Yan Feng had won. "Hee, we knew this would happen. Yan Feng has never disappointed us," said the leader of the Yan clan happily. "I wouldn't have thought that the champion would be Yan Feng, even I'm surprised," said Yan Feng's future teacher. Even though he talked that way, he clearly didn't mean it. His colleagues knew what kind of person he really was. "The tournament is not over, so don't talk too fast," said the one who thought highly of Lin Feng. "I can't wait to see what kind of weapon he'll make," said Yan Feng's future teacher, smiling coldly. He looked at Lin Feng and Mu Lin Shui. Finally, they were finishing the spear, and if they succeeded, they might have a level 4 weapon. Then they might still rank second. "Lin Shui, let's start the condensation part," said Lin Feng. Mu Lin Shui nodded. The spear was already surrounded by destructive energies which were dashing to the sky. Finally, the spear rotated in the sky. "They did it, it's a level 4 imperial weapon." The crowd looked at the weapon. It was different from Yan Feng's weapon, it was a pale white spear. They ranked second. Surprisingly, Yan Feng and Mu Lin Shui, who were at the center of the Mu clan and Yan clan's bet, ranked first and second, thought the crowd. After the 4 geniuses and Lin Feng and Mu Lin Shui finished, the crowd turned to the others. Time passed, and more of them finished their weapons, but most of them only made level 2 weapons. By now, the first 5 winners were already known. If the crowd wasn't wrong, the ranking list would be Yan Feng's team, then Mu Lin Xue's team, then Hen Chang Tian, then Guqing Feng, and then Si Man Nan. Of course, those who were the most impatient were the members of the Yan clan. They were certain that the nine-headed snake fire was theirs. Lin Xue, are you ready to join my clan? Asked Yan Feng, smiling indifferently. Mu Lin Xue glanced at him and smiled coldly, you're still dreaming. Hee, our clans have an agreement and you can't go against it. Try if you dare though, said Yan Feng, glancing at the clans. He knew that since Mu Lin Xue had ranked second, the Mu clan might have some ideas, so would have to put some pressure on them. Many members of the Mu clan had mixed feelings. They didn't know what to do. They couldn't go against the agreement, and after joining Goldfire Tower, Yan Feng would try to get his revenge against them. Lin Feng glanced at Yan Feng and frowned. He found Yan Feng ridiculous as he said indifferently, Yan Feng, since when are you a referee for the tournament? Yan Feng glanced at Lin Feng and frowned, I've never said that. Since you haven't, why do you already consider yourself as the champion of the tournament? The professors of Goldfire Tower haven't said anything concerning the ranking yet, said Lin Feng in a calm and serene way. Yan Feng was surprised, but he smiled at Lin Feng and said, do you think your weapon could be of higher quality than mine? Of course, said Lin Feng. Yan Feng smiled. He was amused, so he replied, I like your sense of humor. We'll see, said Lin Feng stubbornly. Mu Lin Xue's eyes twinkled as she looked at Lin Feng. Actually, she didn't know how powerful their weapon was. She didn't even know if it was better than Yan Feng's weapon, but Lin Feng seemed confident. That guy is really confident, I wonder why, said Yan Feng's future teacher, smiling in a cold way. Some time passed and finally, the 8 hours were over. Many people looked happy, while some looked desperate. The 7 professors in purple clothes all walked forwards at the same time. They had to discuss the ranking. If they didn't agree on something, the professor in the golden purple clothes would act as a referee. Everybody, let me tell you what I think. The 10th one should be him, do you agree? Said one of the professors, pointing at a young man in black clothes. The 6 others nodded in agreeance. All right, so we agree, said the professor. Then, he smiled at the young man and said, congratulations, you ranked 10th. You may take 3 steps forwards. Thank you, masters, said the young man nodding. He had ranked 10th, that was great. Chapter 1641, The Champion. Many people were nervous. After all, those young people represented their groups in Goldfire City. After that, the professors also announced who had ranked 9th, 8th, 7th and 6th. When it was time to announce who had ranked 6th and 7th, the professors started to disagree. When this happened, if only one professor didn't agree, their opinion didn't count, but if 2 or more professors disagreed, then everyone had to reconsider. For those who had ranked between 6th and 10th, the professor in golden clothes didn't need to interject. With that, it was time to decide who had ranked 5th. Si Man Nan ranked 5th in my opinion. Do you all agree? Asked one of the professors in purple. Si Man Nan shivered, he obviously wasn't happy. I agree. I agree too. I think Si Man Nan should rank 4th. He made wings which can make a cultivator both extremely fast and defense heavy, said one of them. I think so too. He should rank 4th, said another one. The professors couldn't agree again. Maybe those who had objected only thought highly of him because they wanted to recruit him. Maybe there was a connection between them and Si Man Na, just like Yan Feng had with his future teacher. Of course, maybe they really thought that Si Man Nan had done better than Guqing Feng. Alright, we need someone else's opinion then, said the cultivator, turning to the 3 professors in golden red clothes. We all agree that Si Man Nan should rank 5th, said one of the professors in the golden red clothes. Alright, said the professor in purple clothes, nodding. Since the professors in golden red clothes agreed, it was decided. Of course, if the three professors in the golden-red clothes hadn't agreed, they would have needed the opinion of the professor in the golden-purple clothes. The rules were fair, even if the professors had their personal opinions. Of course, they couldn't let the professor in golden-purple clothes decide everything on his own. If he liked someone, then he might favor them just as these purple-clothed judges had. Man Nan was disappointed that he had only ranked 5th. The 4th one should be Guqing Feng, do you all agree? Asked the professor. This time, everyone agreed. After all, Hen Chang Tian's tower was extraordinary. Besides, he had made it alone. Guqing Feng understood the skill that was required. The 3rd one had to be Hen Chang Tian, even though he had made a weapon on his own. Yan Feng and Mu Lin Xue's team had each made level 4 imperial weapons, so Hen Chang Tian couldn't compete with them. Who's going to rank 2nd, thought the crowd. They're high from the anticipation. They were almost sure that Lin Feng was going to rank 2nd and Yan Feng 1st, but since Lin Feng sounded so confident, they couldn't wait to hear what the professors had to say. All the members from the Yan clan stood up, the next sentence would be decisive. The members of the Mu clan also all stood up. You each made level 4 imperial weapons. Yan Feng's cloud was wider, which might mean that his weapon is of higher quality. However, Mu Lin Xue's weapon is strange, I can't understand it properly. It's probably because of the deployment marks. Show us the power of your weapons and I'll decide after, said the professor in purple clothes. No, Yan Feng's weapon is of better quality, so he is the champion. Just tell us what you think, and we can talk about it. Why make things so complicated, said Yan Feng's future teacher. Actually, he was also curious, he didn't understand Lin Feng's deployment marks either. I want to understand the power of their weapons clearly. That's the only way to make a proper decision, said the professor. What do you think? It would be fair to see how powerful their weapons are first, said the professor who thought highly of Lin Feng and Mu Lin Xue. The others agreed, so they said, Yan Feng, you start first. All right. Yan Feng nodded and condensed cosmic energies in his hands which powered his sword. Attack, shouted Yan Feng. His sword dashed to the skies, making the sky turn red. Then a terrifying blood strength fell, along with a furious, bloodthirsty dragon which was emitting large fire jettisons. Mu Lin Xue and her assistant, show us the power of your spear, said the professor to Lin Feng and Mu Lin Xue. I'll do it, said Lin Feng. He grabbed the spear firmly and slowly raised it to his shoulder. Then he shouted in a deep voice, go. Bzzz. The spear shook and suddenly disappeared. Gotcha. A destructive strength filled the sky. The spear instantly appeared in the sky, and it was still rising. An illusion? Surprisingly, the crowd had lost track of the spear before it had reappeared higher up in the sky. That weapon was very dangerous, it's hard to say what level of cultivator could be killed by it. Eventually, the spear came back to Lin Feng's hand. Then he turned to the judges and said, my spear is incredible in terms of attack, speed, and illusion. It's better than his sword, and I'm sure that you must understand that now. The crowd was speechless. Lin Feng was saying that his spear was better than Yan Feng's sword in all aspects. Ridiculous. You're talking nonsense, shouted Yan Feng furiously. The cloud is a sign of quality, and yours wasn't as good. Yan Feng should rank first, said Yan Feng's future teacher indifferently. I think that Mu Lin Xue and her assistant should rank first, said the teacher who had made a bet with him. What do you think? Asked the professor in purple to the others. They had each made an incredible weapon, both a sword and a spear. Yan Feng's sword had created a better cloud, and it was incredible in terms of defense seeing how it could summon a fire dragon. Lin Feng's weapon was incredibly dangerous, its cloud wasn't very dense, but it was terrifying. I think Yan Feng should win. I think Mu Lin Xue should win. The 6 other professors said what they thought. 3 thought Yan Feng should win, and 3 thought Mu Lin Xue and Lin Feng should win. The main professor still had to say what he thought. Our 3 colleagues will have to decide then, said the professor, looking at the professors in golden red clothes. We all disagree too. Our master can decide who the champion is, said a professor in golden red clothes. The crowd frowned. The professors in golden red clothes had also disagreed, the suspense. Mu Qingying looked nervous too. She was fixedly staring at the professor in the golden purple clothes. He slowly rose up in the air and looked at Lin Feng and Yan Feng. Then, he smiled indifferently and said, "You are both outstanding, but there can be only one champion. I have to make a decision, so please don't be angry, even if you're second." "So, I say that Yan Feng's team, ranks second," said the professor in golden purple clothes. Yan Feng ranked second? What? Congratulations, said the level 9 professor to Lin Feng and Mu Lin Xue. Mu Lin Xue looked dumbstruck, but happy. She looked at Lin Feng, they had won. They had won the tournament. Yan Feng's eyes were filled with flames of fury. He looked furious as he said, "I, Yan Feng, don't accept this decision." Chapter 1642, Do You Accept? The members of the Mu clan didn't know how to react. But they knew that Mu Lin Xue had only won because of Lin Feng. Mu Qingying was astonished. She glanced at Lin Feng and thought, if Lin Feng had helped me, what kind of weapon could we make? However, people didn't have time to think too much. Yan Feng had already said he didn't accept the results. Of course Yan Feng didn't accept that decision, he had already considered himself the winner. Many people also considered him the winner. In the end though, the professor in the golden purple clothes said that Lin Feng and Mu Lin Xue were the winners. "Master, the Yan clan doesn't accept the results either," said the leader of the Yan clan bowing. He didn't dare act too aggressively. The teacher looked at the leader of the Yan clan and said indifferently, "What you mean to say is that I should listen to you to decide who the winner is?" "Master, we wouldn't dare," said the leader of the Yan clan shaking. Even though he really meant that, he didn't want to say it openly. "If you don't dare, then what exactly do you mean when you say you don't accept the results?" asked the professor in golden purple clothes indifferently. "Master, I just want the tournament to be fair. Maybe we could compare the 2 weapons in a fight," said Yan Feng bowing. He was furious, but he didn't dare act too recklessly. He couldn't afford infuriating the level 9 professor. That's a joke. Using weapons to compare strength is ridiculous. Do you think that a high-level emperor with a level 1 imperial weapon couldn't kill a low-level emperor with a level 9 imperial weapon? Said the professor in a cold way. Weapons represented an external strength. Even though they had made level 4 imperial weapons and could threaten medium-level emperors, that was just an expression. In a real fight, a medium-level emperor could probably still kill them. Even if a Zun cultivator had a level 9 imperial weapon, couldn't do much against an emperor. Yan Feng said he wanted to fight against Lin Feng to compare their weapons because his level and Lin Feng's were different. Therefore, the master in golden purple clothes didn't even consider that as a possibility. "Master, I don't mind trying," said Lin Feng. The level 9 master looked at Lin Feng and then at Yan Feng and said, "Since he agrees, you have one chance." "Thank you very much, master," said Yan Feng excitedly. Then, he suddenly turned to Lin Feng and looked at him in a cold way. Surprisingly, Lin Feng had taken the initiative to accept the battle. How ridiculous. Yan Feng was holding his long sword while releasing fire cosmic energy, making it fuse together with his sword. Lin Feng was holding his spear in his right hand, but looked rather calm. Some destructive chi was slowly emerging from it. "Everybody will see that I, Yan Feng, deserve to be proclaimed champion of the tournament." Yan Feng released more fire, causing his sword to whistle. Then he jumped forwards. Lin Feng didn't say anything. Talking was pointless at that moment, the only thing that mattered was strength. Wind chant. Lin Feng suddenly moved like the wind, turning into a shadow as his spear started rotating. "Attack!" shouted Yan Feng furiously, raising his long sword. At the same time, Lin Feng threw his silver spear. It instantly tore apart the terrifying red dragon, making it explode into countless pieces in every direction. Then, Lin Feng suddenly shook his head and his spear disappeared. Slash! Yan Feng sensed danger coming at him from every direction. He was even worried for his life now. "Go!" Yan Feng shook his head and threw his sword. With it, a metallic sound rang, and the destructive energies turned into a terrifying tornado. Even with this, the red dragon continued breaking apart, pushing Yan Feng's sword back. Then Yan Feng sensed a horrible pain as his sword moved back towards his chest. He groaned with pain and blood splashed. He was propelled backwards by a few thousand meters. His face was deathly pale, and he looked confused, but he tried to ignore the pain. He had lost though. His sword had been pushed back by Lin Feng's spear. This proved that the level 9 professor had made the right decision. Now there was no question that Lin Feng and Mulin Xue were the champions. "I like your sense of humor, Yan Feng. Even before the end of the tournament, you firmly believed that you were the champion," said Lin Feng, smiling indifferently. The professor who thought highly of Lin Feng and Mulin Xue smiled. He had won his bet, so he turned to the professor next to him and said, "You also asked me for my technique before the end of the tournament. I too like your sense of humor. It's time you give me your technique." His interlocutor's mouth twitched, his heart was pounding. The professor who liked Lin Feng was making fun of him. "You refused my decision, then you wanted to fight. What about now? Do you accept my decision now?" asked the level 9 professor to Yan Feng in a cold way. Initially, he didn't have anything against Yan Feng, ranking second wasn't bad either, but Yan Feng and the Yan clan had questioned his decision and hadn't given him face. He didn't need to give Yan Feng face. Yan Feng was only a young man, while he was a level 9 professor. Yan Feng shivered. What could he say now? Now, he had to talk again and say if he accepted the decision or not. "I have a headache now," thought Yan Feng's future teacher. It was fine to be arrogant when you were young, but they still had to be careful. Yan Feng had acted arrogantly in front of someone whom he should have respected. Chapter 1643, Prizes. The members from the Yan clan felt sorry for him. If he had lost against Hen Chang Tian, it would have been fine, but he had lost against Mulin Xue from the Mu clan. "I lost." Finally, Yan Feng took a deep breath and admitted he lost. He closed his eyes, and when he opened them again, he was looking at Lin Feng in a cold way. He had told Lin Feng not to get close to Mulin Xue several times, and not only had Lin Feng gotten close to her, he had also developed an intimate relationship with her. "That's all," said Mulin Xue. "Yan Feng, you lost, so in the future, I never want to hear you call me your girlfriend again." "Mulin Xue, you can't escape from me," said Yan Feng. "Before the tournament, you thought you were the winner. You even questioned the master of Goldfire Tower. But now you're just a shameless loser and that's all you'll ever be," said Mulin Xue mockingly. "Humph." Yan Feng groaned coldly. He looked at the level 9 teacher and bowed, then he said respectfully, "I offended you. Please forgive me. I am too young and impulsive." "Enough," said the professor. He didn't care about young people that much anyways. He looked at the crowd and said, "The tournament is over. Now, it's time for the winners to get their prizes. Everybody stand up." Lin Feng and Mulin Xue moved forwards, Yan Feng was standing next to them. "The prize for the winner of the tournament is fire," said the level 9 professor. He shook his hand and suddenly, an imperial fire snake appeared. "If you want to modify that snake, remember that you'll need the help of a medium-level or high-level emperor, otherwise, you could get hurt," said the level 9 professor to Lin Feng and Mulin Xue. The level 9 professor sealed the snake in a purple empty space and smiled at Lin Feng and Mulin Xue, to whom should give I the prize? To him. Give it to her. Mu Lin Xue and Lin Feng talked at the same time, making them laugh. Everybody was speechless. If it had been anyone else, they would have fought for it. You should take it, we only won because of you, said Mu Lin Xue to Lin Feng, smiling. He had helped her so much and now he even refused the prize. Mu Lin Xue was still confused, why did Lin Feng do so much for her? Lin Feng shrugged and said, you should use it, your current fire is holding you back the most from fabricating better weapons. But you also control fire and it could make you stronger, said Mu Lin Xue, shaking her head. You don't know everything about me, I'm quite strong without it, said Lin Feng, smiling in a gentle way. Mu Lin Xue just rolled her eyes. Alright, I've never seen two people like you. Who is going to take it? Asked the level 9 professor, smiling. Mu Lin Xue wanted to say something, but Lin Feng said, if you refuse again, I'm leaving. Mu Lin Xue was speechless, but then she nodded and took the fire. That armor is a level 7 imperial weapon, who wants it? Asked the level 9 professor to Yan Feng and his assistant. Me, said Yan Feng impolitely. Then, he immediately took the armor. After that, the professor continued distributing the prizes. After that, he took out a few gold fire tower talismans, each had a fire tower carved on them. He distributed them and said, to those who have this talisman, if you're in gold fire tower, and you break it, a strong cultivator will immediately come to your aid. Alright, as we said, the top 3 participants can choose a teacher in golden red clothes. They'll be your teacher for at least a year, said the level 9 professor, smiling. Then, the 3 professors in golden red clothes walked forwards. One of them nodded at Lin Feng and Mu Lin Xue. Lin Feng, we can choose that one, said Mu Lin Xue. She had seen him nod, so she bowed in front of him. I would be happy to teach them, said the professor smiling. Yan Feng chose the one who had noticed him as well. Then, it was Hen Chang Tian's turn, he was already a member of the Gold Fire Tower, so choosing a teacher was less dramatic for him. And you, said the level 9 professor to the 7 professors in purple clothes. He had told them that if they wished, they could recruit some disciples as well. The professors then chose some disciples. Yan Feng, said Yan Feng's teacher. You lost this time, but it doesn't mean much. You're a great weapon craftsman. Yan Feng nodded and bowed before his teacher, I feel honored to have you as a teacher. Alright, I'll teach you how to make better weapons. My colleagues in golden red clothes will also help you, said the professor smiling. He sounded happy. Even if Yan Feng had lost to Lin Feng and Mu Lin Xue, he had ranked second. Show me your technique. Everybody heard our bet, said the professor in purple clothes who had bet for Lin Feng and Mu Lin Xue winning. Relax, I promised it, so I will do it, said Yan Feng's teacher. Alright, I'm waiting then, said the professor smiling. He then smiled at Lin Feng and Mu Lin Xue and said, do you want to become my disciples? Lin Xue, said Lin Feng. Mu Lin Xue was smiling at all of these new opportunities. Lin Feng knew what she was thinking when he saw her smile. He looked at the teacher and said, Master, I already have a teacher and I would like to stay with them. Besides, I'm not going to stay in Goldfire City for too much longer. Lin Xue would love to be your disciple though, if you'd accept her, no wonder. Your teacher must be an incredible deployment spellcaster, said the professor nodding. Lin Feng had incredible deployment spells, so his teacher was probably incredible. Lin Feng couldn't join them, which was a pity, but Mu Lin Xue wasn't bad either. She was worth having as a disciple. If you accept, I would be happy to have you as a disciple, said the professor smiling at Mu Lin Xue. Thank you, teacher, said Mu Lin Xue, bowing happily. Now she was officially a disciple of Goldfire Tower and she had a teacher. The Mu clan wouldn't be able to do anything to her. Her life was finally in her own hands. Mu Lin Xue stretched out her arm and grabbed Lin Feng's hands. Lin Feng smiled at her and said, everything is alright now. Indeed, everything's good now, said Mu Lin Shui nodding. The other professors then chose their disciples. Only a few of them refused to become a professor's disciple. Sister Lin Shui is now a member of Goldfire Tower, she has a teacher, and she will even learn from a teacher in golden red clothes, thought Mu Qingying, sighing. The difference between her and Mu Lin Shui was widening. The members of the Mu clan didn't know what to think. They didn't dare face Mu Lin Shui anymore. Chapter 1644, That's All. Little boy, are you sure you don't want to join Goldfire Tower? Asked the level 9 professor, smiling at Lin Feng. The reason why he had decided Lin Feng was the champion was because of his deployment spells. He could see that Lin Feng's deployment spells were powerful. Besides, he could tell that Lin Feng would become stronger in the future. I'm sure, Master, replied Lin Feng smiling. No problem. Even though you don't want to join the Goldfire Tower, you can come and leave as you wish. You're a permanent guest of honor here and the rules here don't apply to you, said the professor. Lin Feng smiled, how could he refuse such an offer? A permanent guest of honor? The professor wanted to befriend Lin Feng, which made everyone else feel jealous. Yan Feng pulled a long face. He should have been the champion of that tournament and now everyone was looking at Lin Feng and not at him. Even the level 9 professor preferred Lin Feng over him. Master, thank you, I wouldn't refuse such an invitation, said Lin Feng smiling. He was now a permanent guest of honor at Goldfire Tower. Huh, you're the youngest permanent guest of honor at the Goldfire Tower and I don't even know your name. Lin Feng, said Lin Feng smiling. Lin Feng, if you need anything, feel free to ask me, said the professor nodding. Then, he walked to some other people. Mu Lin Shui pulled on Lin Feng's hand and smiled, the youngest guest of honor of Goldfire Tower. After the members of the Goldfire Tower chose their disciples, many people from powerful groups started choosing their new disciples. Many of which landed next to Lin Feng and Mu Lin Shui. Lin Feng, what do you think? Asked Mu Lin Shui to Lin Feng. It was as if Lin Feng had become her personal advisor. If those people don't impose their rules on you, you should accept, said Lin Feng to Mu Lin Shui. Then, he looked at everyone and said, everybody thinks highly of us. I, Lin Feng, won't be staying here for too long, but thank you for your kindness. Concerning Lin Shui, it's only a matter of time. Alright, I understand, Lin Feng. If you have time, please come to Wine Valley as our guest, said an old man, smiling. The others also expressed their opinions. Lin Feng nodded back to them all, thank you, if I have the opportunity, I'll come and see you. Then, those people left. Lin Shui, said someone at that moment. Lin Feng and Mu Lin Shui turned around and saw that the leader of the Mu clan was talking to them. Lin Shui, you are the champion of the tournament and we are extremely proud of you. In the future, we'll do everything we can to make you stronger, said the leader of the clan. Mu Lin Shui's social status was now different, she was a member of Goldfire Tower, and she had a direct teacher. She could even consult the professors in the golden red clothes. As the leader of the Mu clan, he knew he had to repair their relationship. Proud? I thought you wanted me to go to the Yen clan. If I weren't the champion of the tournament, you wouldn't be saying that, said Mu Lin Shui mockingly. Lin Shui, you should understand the difficult position the Mu clan faced, said her grandfather. Grandpa, said Mu Lin Shui. He was good to her and he had always tried to help her. Concerning the difficulties the Mu clan faced, she knew what he meant. Lin Feng, tell us what you think, said Mu Lin Shui's grandfather. He knew that she was stubborn, but she still listened to Lin Feng. Lin Feng hadn't expected the old man to ask him for help. He viewed things from outside, so he was a bit wiser. For Mu Lin Shui, staying in the Mu clan wasn't a good thing at all, and even if she went away, she'd remain a member of the Mu clan. Lin Feng thought about Mui, but he didn't know what Mui wanted. Lin Shui, listen to your heart, said Lin Feng to Mu Lin Shui smiling. Mu Lin Xue nodded, she knew what he meant. She turned to her uncle and said, back then, my father was expelled from the clan. Instead, I want him to be expelled and my father to come back. She was pointing at her uncle, who instantly turned pale. Making Mui come back. Even though her uncle had done all he could to get Mui expelled from the clan, expelling Mui was a decision from the whole clan. If he had decided alone, Mui wouldn't have been expelled. Mu Lin Xue wanted to vent her anger, so she chose him. Lin Xue, he's your uncle, said the leader of the clan. Do you think telling me that is useful? You know how evil he is to me. If you don't want to expel him, then I'll expel myself, said Mu Lin Xue. The leader of the Mu clan remained silent and then said, all right, I accept. Master. Mu Lin Xue's uncle looked horrified. Don't call me master. You're no longer a member of the clan, said the leader suddenly. Even Lin Feng was happy with this decision. Thank you very much, master, said Mu Lin Xue smiling. Her uncle was furious, he glanced at everybody, but nobody defended him. I'm going back to the clan to get some things. Mu Lai, Mu Yu, we're going, said Mu Lin Xue's uncle to his children. At the same time, all the professors from Goldfire Tower were standing above them in the air. They had all seen what had just happened. In a few dozen years, those young people will become stronger. Some of them might become pillars of support for the Goldfire Tower, said the level 9 professor smiling. Unfortunately, Lin Feng doesn't want to join the Goldfire Tower. Maybe he just wanted to help Mu Lin Xue. He isn't interested in weapons, he didn't even want the fire. In the future, Yan Feng and Hen Chang Tian will become prominent figures in Goldfire Tower, said Yan Feng's teacher. The level 9 professor didn't look so happy to hear that, he really didn't like Yan Feng. Many people were now looking at Yan Feng. Lin Feng had refused to join any group, so they wanted to try their luck with Yan Feng. Yan Feng looked at Lin Feng and smiled indifferently. Lin Feng is the champion of the tournament, but we still don't know how strong he really is. Many people were surprised, Yan Feng was still angry. Lin Feng, Mu Lin Xue, you both won the tournament, but maybe we should have a battle without using imperial weapons. I'll even fight against both of you at the same time, said Yan Feng sharply. Mu Lin Xue frowned, Yan Feng really was a scumbag. He controlled cosmic energies and his fire was terrifying, it would be difficult for Lin Feng and Mu Lin Xue to defeat him. Lin Feng looked angry, it seemed that he would have to teach him a lesson again. Chapter 1645, Trying to kill Yan Feng. Many people looked at Lin Feng and Yan Feng. Yan Feng had thought he'd be the champion of the tournament and now he was very unhappy. Although he was childish, Lin Feng and Yan Feng were both at the same level, so it'd be a humiliation to them if they didn't accept Yan Feng's request. Lin Feng looked at Yan Feng's indifferent smile, and then the corner of Lin Feng's lips curled upwards. He said, I don't like exchanging views on cultivation, I only do battles to the death. An eerie silence filled the stadium. Some people even looked excited. Battle to death. Goldfire Tower protected the 10 best participants from the tournament, but if 2 of them challenged each other and accepted the fight, then nobody would interject. Of course, you don't need to fight against the both us, just one of us is enough for the likes of you. It's best not to overestimate yourself, said Lin Feng laughing. Yan Feng's pupils narrowed, he knew that Lin Feng was trying to pull him in. This time, Lin Feng is taking the initiative. If you don't dare, then never bark in front of me again, otherwise people will make fun of you, said Lin Feng mockingly after he saw Yan Feng remaining silent. Mu Lin Xue looked at Lin Feng, that guy. She knew Lin Feng's deployment spells were powerful, but she still didn't know how strong he really was. She also didn't know what abstruse energies Lin Feng understood, she had seen him use a few at the maximum level already, including immortal and fire energies. Yan Feng had taken the initiative to challenge Lin Feng, so how could he refuse? He jumped forwards and shouted furiously, come here. Lin Feng looked delighted. Mu Lin Shui had ranked first, while Yan Feng had ranked second, and in the future, they'd be in Goldfire Tower together, so he could pose a threat to her. This way, Lin Feng could take care of one more concern he had before he left. Lin Feng looked at the level 9 professor and said, "Master, Yan Feng challenged me, and I accept his request. If I die, it'll be my fault, and I won't blame Goldfire Tower for not protecting us." "All right," replied the professor nodding. "Yan Feng, are you sure you want to fight as well?" asked the level 9 professor. "If I die, it will have nothing to do with Goldfire Tower. We agreed to a battle to the death, so this is personal," said Yan Feng. The members of the Yan clan were frowning. They knew how strong Yan Feng was, but Lin Feng sounded confident. "All right, since you two agreed, then there's no problem," said the professor indifferently. The 3 professors in golden red clothes and the 7 professors in purple clothes were also interested in the fight. Yan Feng looked at Lin Feng, stretching out his hand, and exuding fire from the palm of his hand. His eyes were quickly filled with murder. He was thinking that even if Lin Feng had hidden his real strength, he was still going to kill him. Blech! Yan Feng spat out blood onto the fire in his hand, making it become larger and brighter. "Arg!" Yan Feng shouted furiously, and then 3 flames appeared behind him, all of them turning into an ocean of flames. Allanite fire. Yan Feng shook his hand and terrifying fire cosmic energy appeared. How strong, thought some people. The Yan clan was a clan who valued fire, and Yan Feng's spirit was made of fire. I wouldn't have thought that Yan Feng's Allanite fire would be so strong. I was worried for nothing. He will definitely kill Lin Feng, thought the leader of the Yan clan, smiling. Mu Lin Shui looked extremely worried. Yan Feng could already threaten emperors with a regular attack, let alone a level 9 Zun Qi cultivator. Lin Feng looked calm though. He was simply looking at Yan Feng, also thinking that if Yan Feng's fire reached him, he would die. "You will die," shouted Yan Feng as he started running forwards, leaving a trail of fire behind him. "Die," shouted Yan Feng. 3 fireballs flew through the sky, turning into ferocious fire dragons. Lin Feng couldn't face him head-on, so he moved like the wind and dodged. By the time the 3 fireballs arrived, Lin Feng had already disappeared. How fast, thought the crowd. It wouldn't be easy for Yan Feng to kill Lin Feng with that speed. Yan Feng immediately gave chase, surrounding Lin Feng once more with an ocean of flames. But again, Lin Feng disappeared before the attack reached him. Some time passed, and there was fire littered everywhere. Yan Feng stopped moving and shouted furiously, "That's how you fight? You're just a coward. Yan Feng's fire is terrifying, but if I can't kill him in one strike, the Yan clan might intervene to save him," thought Lin Feng. After thinking about it for a moment, his gradually became pitch black and he looked emotionless like a demon. Yan Feng noticed these changes, so he continued running after Lin Feng, but still unable to catch up. At that moment, Yan Feng realized that Lin Feng wasn't dodging this time. He was running towards him. "This is my chance to kill him," thought Yan Feng. Allanite fire. He condensed fire in his right hand, and a vortex of fire appeared. That attack could kill, or at least badly injure a low-level emperor. "Stop," shouted Lin Feng, releasing a force which was multiplied by 1,000, which quickly surrounded Yan Feng. Force multiplied by 1,000, that bastard, thought Yan Feng petrified. He looked at Lin Feng and looked directly into his pitch-black pupils. "Death," said Lin Feng. This time he released demonic and cursing energies. Yan Feng's face turned rigid, his eyes turned black, and death qi started invading his body. His fire greatly weakened at this point. Lin Feng shook his hand and shattering holy marks formed. "Explode," shouted Lin Feng furiously. The marks on the ground quickly moved towards Yan Feng. Oh no, the members of the Yan clan suddenly looked desperate. Yan Feng, shouted the leader of the Yan clan furiously. He wanted to force Yan Feng back to his senses. At the same time, he started running towards Yan Feng to save him. He wasn't the only one, several strong cultivators from the Yan clan also followed. They agreed to fight, said Mu Lin Xue's teacher, smiling coldly. He jumped forwards, wanting to prevent the Yan clan from attacking. Bastard, thought Yan Feng's teacher. That guy surprisingly wanted to let Lin Feng kill Yan Feng. Go, shouted the leader of the Mu clan. The members of the Mu clan jumped forwards too, they also wanted to prevent the members of the Yan clan from intervening. The leader of the Yan clan shouted to make Yan Feng come back to his senses, but the ground under his feet was already collapsing, and Yan Feng's situation was looking bad. His large fireball turned into a gigantic dragon before it exploded, throwing fire out in all directions. Yan Feng raised his head and saw Lin Feng standing above him in the sky. He still had that demonic-like pair of eyes staring at him. No, Yan Feng suddenly shouted. The demonic and cursing energies further corroded his body. Nobody can save you today, said Lin Feng. Then, Lin Feng released even more cursing energies making Yan Feng feel like fainting. The ground beneath him started to collapse at this point. Chapter 1646, Celestial Death Curtain. How dare you, the leader of the Yan clan shouted at Lin Feng furiously. However, Lin Feng ignored him. His target was Yan Feng and wouldn't stop until he was killed. Die. Yan Feng bit his lips, trying to come back to his senses. Suddenly, sharp swords emerged from his body, all of which were imperial weapons he had made. The situation was out of control, and he didn't want to die. You're using imperial weapons, said Lin Feng. They had both agreed not to use imperial weapons, but without them, Yan Feng was going to die. How could a cultivator accept death while they still had a way to defend themselves? Lin Feng took out some talismans and threw them at Yan Feng. Some of them exploded on him, while some of them collided against the imperial weapons. Ah! Yan Feng gave a horrible shriek. The shattering energies had injured his internal organs. Lin Feng moved back after he threw them. Even though he had made those talismans, he didn't want to get caught up in their explosions. By this point Yan Feng's face was deathly pale and he was overwhelmed with pain. However, Lin Feng didn't stop. He moved like the wind and continued oppressing him with a force which was multiplied by 1,000. My force is only multiplied by 900, so I can't resist his force, thought Yan Feng. He was getting desperate now, so he suddenly released even more fire which engulfed himself, turning him into a fire monster. After that, he started to run away, trying to avoid Lin Feng's force. A cloud appeared above them, it was filled with a terrifying strength. What? Lin Feng was surprised. Cosmic energy. The members of the Mu clan and the members of the Yan clan suddenly stopped fighting. They raised their heads and looked at the sky. He's going to break through to the Huangqi layer, thought the crowd. Yan Feng and Lin Feng were both terrifying cultivators, and seeing how Lin Feng kept oppressing Yan Feng was constantly being pushed to his limits. As Yan Feng thought he was going to die, he suddenly understood force even better, and his cosmic energies were already at the maximum level. With those, he was finally going to break through to the Huangqi layer. The cloud of cosmic energies condensed, their energies falling onto Yan Feng's body. Yan Feng's fire cosmic energy began burning more passionately, even his body seemed like it was going to burn. Yan Feng closed his eyes and raised his head, welcoming the cosmic energies were cleansing his body. Good, that's the genius of our clan, the leader of the Yan clan looked excited. It seems like we should be grateful, said the leader of the Yan clan, looking at Lin Feng. If Lin Feng hadn't threatened Yan Feng, it would have been difficult for him to break through to the Huangqi layer. But even if we're grateful, things are not over. The battle must end, said the leader of the Yan clan. Of course, he meant that Yan Feng and Lin Feng still needed to kill one or the other. You can stop the battle now, said Mu Lin Xue's teacher indifferently. Finish the battle. Do you think the battle can stop only because you want them to stop? They must finish, and there must be a winner, said Yan Feng's teacher coldly. Humph. Lin Feng had the advantage, yet you all intervened, and now that Yan Feng has broken through to the Huang Qi layer, you want the battle to continue? Do you all hear how ridiculous you are, said Mu Lin Xue's teacher. I intervened, I admit that I made a mistake. But it has nothing to do with their battle. Since they agreed to it, the battle must finish, said Yan Feng's teacher. Indeed, the battle must continue. How could we stop here, said the members of the Yan clan, all whom were smiling coldly. Many people looked at Lin Feng, who was still standing in the sky. He was calmly watching as Yan Feng broke through to the Huang Qi layer. Seeing someone break through to the Huang Qi layer was a mysterious scene and got Lin Feng thinking. Since he understood several different types of abstruse energies, when he broke through to the Huang Qi layer, would several types of cosmic energies enter his body? Finally, Yan Feng opened his eyes and a light made of fire streaked across the sky. It seemed that Lin Feng couldn't use his demonic eyes to deal with him anymore. Lin Feng, you're surprised, right? Said Yan Feng smiling. He had broken through to the Huang Qi layer, and he felt good, powerful even. Now, kneel down and cripple your own cultivation. Only then will I let you leave, said Yan Feng. He looked proud and arrogant. He had almost forgotten that a moment before, he could have died. You're broken through to the Huang Qi layer, but I have the feeling that you haven't progressed at all, said Lin Feng, glancing at Yan Feng. Lin Feng had already fought emperors. In Yaoyi Island, he had also learnt from emperors, fighting their emperors millions of times. Even though he had lost or escaped each time, he was confident in his abilities now. Lin Feng, said Mu Lin Xue, she was scared to death. She was still looking very, very nervous, which wasn't surprising because Yan Feng had become an emperor after all. That guy doesn't seem worried, thought Mu Qingying. Didn't he know that there was a huge difference between emperors and Zun cultivators? Bang! Yan Feng took a step forwards, releasing terrifying fire cosmic energies. The sky turned red as he released these energies. Yan Feng, kill him, said the leader of the Yan clan. After releasing all these energies, Yan Feng started running towards Lin Feng again. He raised his hands and his fists turned into two dazzling fireballs made of cosmic energy. Lin Feng shook his hands as demonic lights appeared in the sky, quickly turning into demonic marks which contained terrifying shattering energies. Die, said Yan Feng. His fire surrounded Lin Feng, making him look like a tiny ant inside that fiery mountain. Lin Feng, shouted Mu Lin Xue. Why hadn't Lin Feng dodged? Why? Celestial death curtain, die, said a voice. Lin Feng, who was practically bathing in that ocean of flames, launched pitch-black death energies which collided with the fire. Chapter 1647, Killing an Emperor, what kind of power is that, thought the crowd. Lin Feng still had the strength of the Zun Qi layer, but was still competing with Yan Feng, who had broken through to the Huang Qi layer. His death energies didn't seem any weaker than Yan Feng's energies. All the emperors from Goldfire Tower were open-mouthed, speechless. Lin Feng could resist an emperor's cosmic energies, which meant that he was 100 times stronger than ordinary cultivators of the 9th Zun Qi layer. What a guy, thought Mu Lin Xue. She too was speechless. Yan Feng was no exception, he too was speechless. Lin Feng raised his hands and released shattering energies, filling his celestial death curtain with an indestructible strength. The sky shook as the fire cosmic energies broke apart. At the same time, the celestial death curtain seemed like it was also falling apart, but Yan Feng still felt oppressed. Die, said Lin Feng as he raised both of his hands and used his deadly demon punch. Yan Feng's face turned deathly pale, his cosmic energies weren't enough. Great earth destruction, shouted Lin Feng. He moved like the wind and pierced through the fire. Then, he continued moving towards Yan Feng. At that moment, Yan Feng couldn't block anymore, he didn't have any strength left. He had just broken through to the Huang Qi layer, so how could he die now? A beam of light appeared, causing the space around Yan Feng to distort. He was going to die. Yan Feng had millions of thoughts racing through his mind. In the blink of an eye, he had gone from hell to heaven, and now he was going right back to hell. No, shouted Yan Feng desperately. The members of the Yan clan were astonished. How? How could that happen? Yan Feng had broken through to the Huang Qi layer. They couldn't save Yan Feng by this point. Yan Feng's skull started cracking and then his body exploded. He was dead. Yan Feng's body disappeared, and only Lin Feng remained. He killed an emperor, the crowd remained speechless. This was surreal to them. Crack. The level 9 professor clenched his fists tightly. Lin Feng had killed an emperor, so he knew what that meant. Lin Feng was even more important to them than he had previously thought. In his celestial death curtain, I sensed death, demon, wind, empty space and earth energies. Then in his great earth destruction, I sensed mainly earth energies, but it also contained demon, empty space and thunder energies, thought the professor, closing his eyes as he tried to remember Lin Feng's attacks. There was no doubt that Lin Feng would probably become a famous emperor in the future. It also meant that after breaking through to the Huang Qi layer, he would be able to kill emperors of the same level easily, just like he could kill Zun cultivators of the same level now. Yan Feng's teacher's facial expression was interesting, he looked completely confused. He had just recruited a disciple, then that disciple broke through to the Huang Qi layer, and a few minutes later, his disciple was killed. Mu Lin Xue made friends with a future god, thought the members of the Mu clan, astonished. Lin Xue, Lin Feng is beyond incredible. Mu Qingying had already walked over to Mu Lin Xue. Her eyes were wide open, as if she had just witnessed a miracle. She had never heard of a Zun cultivator who could kill an emperor, and Lin Feng made it look easy. I didn't know he was so strong, I've never seen him fight before, whispered Mu Lin Xue. Mu Qingying smiled wryly. She remembered her reactions in the past, she felt ridiculous now. Could Lin Feng have joined the Mu clan for her? You dared kill him, said the leader of the Yan clan furiously. Yan Feng was the most outstanding disciple the Yan clan had. Chapter 1648, Making Friends with Important People, You Killed Him, shouted the leader of the Yan clan furiously. Yan Feng was the most outstanding disciple of the Yan clan. Everyone from the Yan clan were furious. Yan Feng had just broken through to the Huang Qi layer, he had become a rising genius and in the blink of an eye, Lin Feng had killed him. Lin Feng turned to the leader of the Yan clan and smiled amusingly. He's already dead, why do you ask, said Lin Feng mockingly. The leader of the Yan clan shook his hands and a gigantic fire hand appeared in the sky, instantly moving towards Lin Feng. Such powerful cosmic strength. Lin Feng frowned while looking at the fire hand. That hand could kill 10 people at the same time. Lin Feng groaned coldly and moved back. At the same time, he took out the talisman from Goldfire Tower. The level 9 professor groaned coldly and attacked to defend Lin Feng. Terrifying cosmic energies appeared, and the sky shook. With that, the cosmic energies from the leader of the Yan clan exploded and disappeared. Does the Yan clan want to be exterminated? Asked Mu Lin Xue's teacher. The professors in golden red clothes and Mu Lin Xue's teacher moved forwards, all of them looking at the members of the Yan clan. You said you wanted the fight to happen, otherwise Yan Feng wouldn't have died. Now, Lin Feng killed Yan Feng in a fair battle and you dare attack him while still inside Goldfire Tower's territory. Are you trying to provoke Goldfire Tower? Asked a professor in golden red clothes. The Yan clan's leader's face turned deathly pale after he realized what he did. We wouldn't dare, we were just caught up in the moment. Please forgive us, said the leader, lowering his head. Even though he was asking for forgiveness, his eyes were bloodshot with rage. We forgive you this time, it wasn't easy for your clan to finish second at the tournament after all. However, if this happens again, we'll wipe the Yen clan off the map, said the professor the golden-purple clothes indifferently. I understand, said the leader of the Yen clan with his head still lowered. Since you understand, then piss off, said the professor in golden-purple clothes. With that, the members of the Yen clan then started leaving. A strong cultivator from Sword Mountain looked at the level 9 professor, his eyes looked fierce. Those people from Goldfire Tower are sly. Although Yen Feng could be an asset to Goldfire Tower, Lin Feng was a guest of honor who would amount to a lot more than Yen Feng. Lin Feng's future potential was limitless, thought the strong cultivator from Sword Mountain. Alright, the tournament is over, everybody can do whatever they want now, said the level 9 professor to the crowd. Little Feng, if you have time, come to Sword Mountain. This is our talisman, if you need anything, use it to contact us. We will do our best to help you if you need, said the strong cultivator from Sword Mountain to Lin Feng. Everybody was astonished. Sword Mountain and the Yen clan had collaborated for a long time and now that person was trying to befriend Lin Feng. If the Yen clan saw that, they'd be furious. Thank you very much, Master. This is perfect, I already have a good friend, who's like a brother to me, who's a disciple in Sword Mountain. If I have time, I'll come and visit, said Lin Feng smiling. The strong cultivator was surprised and asked, who's your friend? Wuxia, I hope he's being treated well, said Lin Feng laughing. The strong cultivator smiled and said, alright, I wouldn't have thought that Wuxia was your friend. It's no wonder he's a genius. These days, Wuxia is locked up in a room practicing cultivation. He said he wouldn't come out until he became an emperor. I think that he's going to break through to the Huangqi layer soon. Wuxia is very determined. I have no doubt he'll break through to the Huangqi layer, said Lin Feng smiling. Indeed, Wuxia is a great cultivator. Back then, he chased a group of cultivators at the top of the Zunqi layer, including cultivators of the very top of the Zunqi layer. In the end he managed to catch up with them and kill them all. Because he's so merciless, many people in Sword Mountain have noticed him. You guys are beasts, said the strong cultivator smiling. The strong cultivator smiled and said, alright, I'm leaving now. Please come to Sword Mountain when you have time. You and Wuxia will be able to have a few drinks together. Then he left. Lin Feng, this the talisman of our sect, you can come to Tian Yu Feng whenever you want. A few more strong cultivators gave their talismans to Lin Feng. Lin Feng politely took them. Whether or not he'd choose to go, he expressed his appreciation and gave them face. Everybody only pays attention to him, thought Hen Chang Tian and Guqin Feng smiling wryly. Mu Lin Shui smiled in a gentle way. Everybody had forgotten about her too. Sister Lin Shui, Lin Feng joined the Mu clan for you, so does he like you? Asked Mu Qingying. Mu Lin Shui's smile became rigid, she looked embarrassed and confused because she didn't know either. She shook her head and whispered, I don't know what he wants. Well, Sister Lin Shui, did you fall in love with him? Asked Mu Qingying smiling. Mu Lin Shui blushed, she didn't look at Mu Qingying's eyes for she was too shy. You spent so much time together and he's so outstanding. If you fell in love with him, it would only be normal, whispered Mu Qingying after she saw Lin Shui's reaction. Lin Shui, said a voice at that moment. Mu Lin Shui turned around to see Mui. Father. Mu Lin Shui hadn't seen him for a long time. Lin Shui, congratulations, said Mui, smiling in a gentle way. He had made the right decision in asking Lin Feng for help. You decided to leave back then, so why did you come back? Asked Mu Lin Shui in a cold way. She was blaming her father for leaving her in such a difficult situation. Even though he had been expelled, he shouldn't have left like that. Mui smiled wryly and said, Lin Shui, I know you're angry at me, but I didn't give up since then. I missed you and I really wanted to help you. Help me to do what? You only came back now that everything's fine, said Mu Lin Shui. Her face was red from anger. Lin Shui, Uncle Mui really wanted to help you, said Lin Feng in a gentle way, walking to them. Mu Lin Shui was suddenly confused. Lin Feng called her father uncle. Lin Feng, you, indeed, Uncle Mui took me to Goldfire City to help you. I didn't know about Goldfire City before and I didn't know about the tournament either, said Lin Feng. Mu Lin Shui was still red, but not from anger. She looked at her father, having understood everything now. Her father had asked Lin Feng to join the Mu clan. Chapter 1649, Goldfire Tower's territory, why didn't you tell me? Lin Shui asked Lin Feng and Mui. Lin Shui, I told Lin Feng not to tell you anything. You have a bad temper, so if you had known that I had sent Lin Feng, you would have only gotten angry, said Mui smiling. But now everything is fine. You and Lin Feng are close to each other, aren't you? Mu Lin Shui remained silent for a few seconds. Then Lin Feng walked closer to her and smiled. Uncle Mui has been studying deployment spells very hard these past few years, and after getting to know you, I understood that all his effort was for you. But then he met me and had asked me to come instead of him. You understand why he did all that, right? Mu Lin Shui raised her head and saw Lin Feng's gentle smile. Finally, she nodded and said, Father. Mui looked sad and happy at the same time. He smiled at Lin Feng. Mui, we've been treated you so poorly. The Mu clan owes you an apology, said the leader of the Mu clan to Mui. I understand, master, said Mui nodding. Good, let's go back to the clan then. Lin Shui is now a member of Goldfire Tower, so she probably wants to go there now, said the leader of the Mu clan. All right. Mui knew why he had to go back. They also understood that Mui had made Lin Feng join the Mu clan, so if they were good to Mui, they'd also be friends with Lin Feng. Lin Feng, please take care of Lin Shui, said Mui, smiling in a deep and meaningful way. Then, he looked at Lin Feng and smiled, you look really cute together. Haha. I'm off. Then, Mui left with the other members of the Mu clan. Lin Feng, don't listen to my dad. Sister Lin Shui, I also think that you're a perfect match. I'm off, said Mu Qingying laughing. Then, she left with the other members of the Mu clan as well. Lin Feng watched as Mu Qingying and Mu Xiao left. Then he glanced at Mu Xiao indifferently, making him shudder in fear. But Lin Feng didn't cause any trouble. Mu Qingying already understood what Mu Xiao had done, so she could deal with him on her own. The crowd dispersed, leaving only the professors of Goldfire Tower left. Mu Lin Shui's teacher approached her and smiled, Mu Lin Shui, you obtained the nine-headed snake fire, so I'll help you modify it. I think your weapon crafting will improve a lot with it. Thank you very much, teacher, said Mu Lin Shui smiling. She couldn't wait to use the fire. If my colleagues in the golden red clothes could teach you their ways of controlling fire, then it'd be even more perfect, said her teacher. A teacher in golden red clothes walked towards them at that moment and said, I'd be happy to help her, of course. Thank you, master, said Mu Lin Shui. Don't forget about our bet, said Mu Lin Shui's teacher to Yan Feng's teacher. Lin Feng, come and have a walk inside Goldfire Tower. If you changed your mind, you can still become one of our disciples, said the professor in golden purple clothes while smiling. Lin Feng nodded politely, thank you, master. Let's go. Let's show all the new disciples our territory as well, said the professor. Everybody nodded and then they followed. The gate to the tower was gigantic and possessed a magnificent golden gleam. They crossed the gate and suddenly, the landscape changed like night and day. From outside, I thought the chi wasn't that great and that it would be small, but actually it's another small world, thought Lin Feng. That small world was filled with fire cosmic energy, practically rolling in waves. One could also hear hammer sounds in the distance. You should mentally prepare yourselves for what'll come next. All the disciples from Goldfire Tower are weapon manufacturers who practice non-stop, every day. That means you'll have to hammer weapons every day, said the professor in golden-purple clothes. Everybody nodded, they already knew that. Of course, you have to become stronger to make more powerful weapons, so Goldfire Tower provides its disciples with all sorts of things, prizes, cosmic energies, deployment spell, ancient scriptures, said the professor. Let's go and see. They continued walking through the small world, soon arriving in another empty space. There were many pavilions and lofty buildings, each building possessing a different chi. Earth chi, thought Lin Feng, glancing at a tower. Indeed, that's the Earth Tower. We don't only cultivate fire chi in Goldfire Tower, there are also earth, ice, wind, life, and death towers, explained the professor. The world of cultivation is vast, and Goldfire City is only the tip of the iceberg, thought Lin Feng. Lin Feng, you're a guest of honor here, so you can use all the towers as you wish. You should spend some time here and practice. You can also stay here forever, I wouldn't mind, said the professor laughing. He knew that Lin Feng knew several types of energies, so those towers were very useful for him. Chapter 1650, The Legendary Holy City. A few professors took Lin Feng to several towers and then they left, allowing Lin Feng to do what he wanted. After they left, Lin Feng picked a tower, and chose the third floor, of which there were 9. The atmosphere was distorted inside the tower. A heavy energy surrounded Lin Feng as soon as he walked in. Even though he was seated, he still felt heavily oppressed. He had chosen the Earth Tower first. Lin Feng's Earth abstruse energy had already reached the maximum abstruse level, but he hadn't started learning cosmic energies yet. To understand Earth cosmic energy, he had to truly be one with the Earth. Fire cosmic energy was brutal and aggressive, while Earth cosmic energy was heavy. Those towers must have been built by some incredible cultivators, thought Lin Feng. He raised his head and looked at the other floors. If he continued to go up, the energies would get denser and heavier. I can't understand Earth cosmic energy yet, but I could try some of the other energies to see if I can understand them better, thought Lin Feng, standing up. Then, he left the tower. Some time passed, and Lin Feng visited all the towers. He didn't waste any time. He had already spent a lot of time studying deployment spells, so now he needed to improve his cultivation again. He had to break through to the Huang Qi layer. Time passed as Lin Feng studied all sorts of energies. Without him noticing, half a year passed. At that moment, at the top of the fire tower, 2 people were sitting there and cultivating. One of them was wearing purple clothes and was a level 7 professor. The other one wore a pale dress and drew a lot of attention from both genders. That was Mu Lin Xue and her teacher. Even with the help of her teacher and the teacher in golden red clothes, it had taken her half a year to modify her snake fire. Lin Xue, you should have a rest, you've made great efforts this past half year, said her teacher, smiling. I'm alright, and I should be thanking you for the efforts you've taken to help me, said Mu Lin Xue in a gentle way. Since I'm your teacher, it's only natural. You've already modified the snake fire, now, becoming stronger will be even easier for you. After you break through to the Huang Qi layer, you'll be able to absorb the rest of the fire and modify it yourself. I'm sure you'll become stronger than me in the future, said the teacher. Mu Lin Xue smiled. She hoped that she'd become very strong, of course. Teacher, you must be tired, you should have a rest. Don't worry about me, I'm just going to have a walk, said Mu Lin Xue, smiling at her teacher. Then he said, what you mean to say is that you want to go and see your lover. Mu Lin Xue looked shy and said, Teacher, Lin Feng is just my friend. He only came to help me because of my father. So what? You're very close to each other, and usually people are friends before they start a relationship, said the teacher. Mu Lin Xue's heart started racing after she thought about it. Lin Xue, the continent of the 9 clouds is vast, Goldfire City is only a small part of the continent. Lin Feng is extremely talented, so he'll certainly amaze the continent of the 9 clouds someday. You and Lin Feng are close, and you like him, you should take the initiative while you still have it. If you miss your chance now, you'll regret it someday, her teacher explained. Mu Lin Xue remained silent for a moment, then saying, "Teacher, I'm going." She smiled at her teacher one last time, and then left. Lin Feng. Mu Lin Xue found Lin Feng rather quickly. She had arranged her hair while walking over and was now smiling sweetly at him. "Lin Xue, you've become even stronger," said Lin Feng. "I still don't know how strong you are though. Back then, your force was multiplied by 1,000, and your abstruse energies were also at their highest levels. One more step and you'll break through to the Huang Qi layer." Mu Lin Xue was praising him. "Maybe," said Lin Feng smiling. He didn't admit it, but indeed, one more step and he'd break through to the Huang Qi layer. However, that was easier said than done. He needed an opportunity for that and he didn't know when it would come. "Where are we going?" Mu Lin Xue asked as Lin Feng seemed to be taking them somewhere. "I want to go and see the professor in the golden-purple clothes and asked him for a map. I'm not familiar with the continent of the 9 clouds." She was surprised to hear him say that. It meant that he was planning on leaving. The continent of the 9 clouds is too large, it might even be endless. The professor can't have a map of the entire continent. "We're in the Dark Night region, but I'm not even sure you could find a map of the entire region," said Mu Lin Xue. "Lin Xue, where does that name come from?" asked Lin Feng. Mu Lin Xue was surprised, Lin Feng didn't know something so ordinary. "I'm not sure about the details but the continent of the 9 clouds is divided into 9 major plates, the 9 clouds, the godly clouds, the dark clouds, the green jade clouds, the red clouds, the bright clouds, the jade clouds, the blue pale clouds, the purple clouds and the supreme clouds. Of these, Goldfire City is in the dark clouds." Mu Lin Xue explained. "What about the Holy City? Does it exist?" asked Lin Feng. In the small world, people had said that the Great World was the Holy City. The Holy City exists indeed. It's an important celestial city, one of 18 in the Dark Night region. "Although I've heard about it, I've never been there because it's very, very far away," replied Mu Lin Xue. "It really exists," whispered Lin Feng. "And it was a famous celestial city at that." Chapter 1651, Vast Celestial Ancient City, Holy City. Lin Feng frowned as he thought of something. The diviner had told him to come to Holy City to find him, but did he mean the real Holy City as in the Celestial City or did he mean the Great World as a whole? If the diviner had meant the entire Great World, then it would be extremely difficult to find him, unless Fortune Shrine was very famous and everybody knew about it in the continent of the 9 clouds. "Lin Xue, do you know about Fortune Shrine?" Lin Feng asked. "Fortune Shrine?" Mu Lin Xue shivered. Fortune Shrine was very mysterious, even more so than the Holy City. She didn't know much about it besides the name. According to legends, it was one of the most powerful influential groups in the world. The Holy City is in the Dark Night region, and it's one of the main cities, so maybe you'll learn more about it there. "I'm not strong enough, so I've never had the opportunity to learn more about it," said Mu Lin Xue. "Lin Xue, have you ever heard of the vast celestial ancient city?" asked Lin Feng. Mu Lin Xue looked at Lin Feng in a strange way. He didn't know much about the continent of the 9 clouds, so she was wondering how he had lived before. "Lin Feng, the vast celestial ancient city is one of the main cities, just like the Holy City. It's one of the 18 ancient cities that kind of reign over the region we are in," said Mu Lin Xue. "By the way, why do you ask me that?" "I see," thought Lin Feng. This reminded him a bit of Tiantai in the northern part of Bahuan. If it was the same, then that meant their region was probably divided into 18 parts and each of them was controlled by a city. I saw that in the memories an old man had transmitted to me, said Lin Feng to Mu Lin Xue. He didn't explain more though. Actually, he had learnt about the vast celestial ancient city in the memories of the everlasting celestial emperor. The everlasting palace still wanted to capture Lin Feng, so there were things he couldn't talk about. He didn't know how far he was from Xiang City, but if he wasn't far, he had to leave soon. The professor must have a map of the region at least, said Lin Feng. Maybe, since you want one, we can go and see him. I'll come with you too, said Mu Lin Xue smiling. Lin Feng nodded and they both crossed Goldfire Tower to get to the professor's place. The professor, 6 months before, had told Lin Feng to come if he needed anything. After a short time, Lin Feng and Mu Lin Xue arrived in front of a golden-purple tower, which reminded them of the professor's clothes. Lin Feng, Mu Lin Xue. Someone came out and appeared in the courtyard. He smiled, don't be shy, come here. Thank you very much, master, said Lin Feng bowing. Not bad, you've both progressed a lot, Lin Feng will become an emperor soon, said the professor. I wonder when I'll be able to break through to the Huang Qi layer, said Lin Feng smiling. Many people's cultivation stopped at different points. Even though Lin Feng was talented, breaking through to the Huang Qi layer wasn't going to be easy. When you are ready, things happen naturally. Maybe someday you'll understand something suddenly and then level up, said the professor smiling. By the way, did you want something from me? Master, do you have a map of the region controlled by the vast celestial ancient city, said Lin Feng straightforwardly. Oh. The professor's eyes twinkled. He smiled and said, Lin Feng, do you want to go to the vast celestial ancient city? I'm thinking of going, said Lin Feng. The vast celestial ancient city is one of the 18 main cities in our region. There are many strong cultivators there, powerful sects and clans, many geniuses, it's a heaven for cultivators is what I'm getting at. Of course, it can also be hell for some people, depending on their luck. Lin Feng, I will send some strong cultivators there in a few months, if you want, you can go with them, said the professor. A young person from Goldfire Tower is in the vast celestial ancient city, and in a few months, those people will go and visit him. They'll also bring some young people to broaden their horizons, said the professor. Having said this, if you still want to go alone, you can. I have maps in my memories, and I can transmit a map of the region to you, said the professor smiling. He didn't want Lin Feng to misunderstand him. Thank you very much, master, said Lin Feng bowing. Then, the professor transmitted the memories to Lin Feng. It was kind of blurry though, several places were not distinct. It was probably difficult to make a precise map of such a huge place. Master, I'm off, I'll see you later, said Lin Feng before he turned around left with Mu Lin Xue. Lin Feng, what do you want to do now? Mu Lin Xue asked him. Since the end of the tournament, we've been staying in Goldfire Tower the whole time. We should go and see Uncle Mui, said Lin Feng cheerfully. Mu Lin Xue didn't mind and smiled back, I wonder how my dad is doing, let's go to the Mu clan. The Mu clan was prosperous those days. Since the end of the tournament, Mui had gone back, and Mu Lin Xue's uncle had been expelled. The Mu clan was still under a lot of pressure from the Yen clan though. Of course, the Yen clan didn't dare openly attack the Mu clan either. Mu Lin Xue and Lin Feng had become important people to Goldfire Tower, so who know what their response would be if they were openly hostile. Lin Feng and Mu Lin Xue went back to the Mu clan, many people instantly noticing them. Older people smiled at Lin Feng politely, having heard or seen about him kill an emperor, they could only admire him. When Mui saw Lin Feng and Mu Lin Xue, he instantly became happy. They had food and drinks before Lin Feng wanted to leave. Where are you going, Lin Feng? Mu Lin Xue asked. She seemed sad, as if she didn't want Lin Feng to leave. Lin Xue, you should stay here in the Mu clan. I want to go to Sword Mountain. Lin Feng said. Sword Mountain wasn't far from Goldfire Tower. Lin Feng wanted to go and see Wuxia, seeing how he hadn't traveled for a year. He didn't like staying in the same place for too long. After he came back, then he'd go to the vast celestial ancient city with the people from Goldfire Tower. I want to come with you, said Mu Lin Shui. She looked strange, as if she was scared that Lin Feng would never come back. Lin Feng smiled wryly and said, Don't worry, I'll come back to Goldfire Tower. This trip won't take that long. Mu Lin Shui lowered her head, she looked sad and disappointed. Huh, Lin Shui, are you really so scared that Lin Feng won't come back, said Mu Yi laughing. Mu Lin Shui blushed and said, Dad. Alright, everybody knows how you're feeling. Lin Feng, go, I'll take care of my daughter, said Mu Yi. Lin Feng smiled wryly, he knew that Mu Yi wanted him to be with his daughter. Uncle Mu Yi, Lin Shui, I'm off, said Lin Feng. And then he moved like the wind and left. Mu Yi then stopped smiling and whispered, That little boy is difficult to understand, it won't be easy for you to start a relationship with him, Lin Shui. Mu Lin Shui raised her head and watched as Lin Feng left. She knew that Lin Feng was just trying to keep some distance between them. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.